Right then. We've actually started now. Again. Listen to a bit of Rasta. So, not normally do I like giving any cadence to dealing with any of the bullshit that falls out of this knob cheese's mouth, but it's a good opportunity to cover some of the crap that is being pushed by a lot of these types of individuals that are looking to opportunistically fuck with things. And it's interesting, the some sort of angles that this dickhead's trying to take. I mean, fucking, I go from the top. Mandem suggesting that he's gonna be he's gonna help Jason. He's gonna be the only one to pull him out. Well, if you're gonna do that, where's the honesty? Where's the righteousness to what is correct? What is prevalent? You made up lies about what happened in the debate that falls in line with Caleb's mentality about it. You mentioned nothing about Caleb being a little whiny bitch, muting him all the time, and tried to spin it round that fucking, oh, this is a bottom of the pit for Jason. Jason was fucking offering Caleb to have a debate and a discussion about the colonized issue, you know, because Caleb is not pro decolonization. He's not pro giving back political power of land to the people whom were colonized on it. Caleb ignored Jason, blocked him on all the media, and went and split off from him, started calling him all sorts, a lot of the time indirectly. Like, some of it was obvious, you could tell it was about him, like some of it about third worlders, some of it about teenage man, this, that, and the other. You could tell it's about Jason. He was doing a lot of that after he blocked Jason, and without really saying anything directly, told him to go fuck himself, and then started furthering up the ante, where he's directly atting Emma and atting Jason to turn around and call him a fucking reactionary and that you don't know shit. And you know, you're not helping Mandem when you lie. What you're doing is you're opportunistically looking for a window to stick your grubby little fucking fingers in and get what you can out of the situation. You're an opportunist. And no, it wasn't about just trying to, oh, Jason, he tried to deplatform me. A, no one has that fucking power here. That's the power of the people's choice to choose. Secondly, when you dox a fucking cadre on the streets, someone who's being hunted by fascists, when you dox them, yeah, you do deserve to get a lot worse than deplatforming, son. A lot fucking worse. You don't do that shit. You're supposed to be this big helper, and you dox cadres on the streets. You're a fucking contradiction on legs, mate. Contradiction on legs. Those two things can't fucking work in cohesion together. You can't fucking behave like Trotsky and then claim you're fucking Stalin. No. That's not how it works, buddy. Not how it works. And then you go and sabotage Dark Synovia after fucking trying to distance yourself as much as you can from his attempts to push into third worldism and get closer to Comrade Net. Seems weird that you get pissy with the guy when he starts to get closer to our Jewish comrade. But ayo, you can join the club of the other dengists that like to accuse the MRN of being some Jewish conspiracy. Join the fucking queue, because there's a lot of people queuing up to pop comments like that. You then, as you know Jordan's at his weakest, because you're a really, really obvious manipulator. Like, to be a good manipulator, the whole point is that you're not supposed to be obvious, mate. I mean, maybe I'm good at spotting them, but when you go, like, and pick not a worst moment to manipulate, you picked the worst moment to manipulate the guy. This opportunism, you're waiting for him on his darkest days. You got him when his mom died. His mom passed away, and what did you do? Did all you could to sabotage him and his name. Heck, there were people, both sides, both camps, left or right, who saw that as scummy. Because no one in their righteous mind, regardless of what they think politically, could see that as a what's it, as a camaraderie, as a show of camaraderie. And gaslighting Jason's mental health. That's not helping shit. Yeah, Jason has struggles with stress. He has struggles with all the slander he's got. Can't gaslight his mental health to say that Mandem is not speaking intellectually or intelligently because of it. That's ableism. You know, that would imply that you think people with disabilities associated with learning or otherwise can't think as much or operate and engage as much. Mental illness is just as much a disability in that outright as a neurological or cognitive disability would be. You can't turn around and just gaslight that into thinking that Mandem's not going to be making sense because of it. There are people on the streets with worse mental health conditions than Jason, whom speak just as straight, if not straighter than Jason, when it comes to struggle. And trust me, more likely they speak straighter than not because of experience, the wellspring of knowledge. Something you're not too aware of because your life experience is your mum's basement, talking shit about people. Yes, punk, especially oi punk and hardcore, along with thrash metal in the album, is street-based lumpen proletariat and proletarian music. Absolutely rightly said, comrade. I gotta really ask, how are we agents of the monarchy? That was some fucking crazy shit right there. Like, what fucking spick and spittoon have you been sticking up your ass? Fucking agents of the monarchy. That is a joke. You know, like, it really comes to the start. Is a point to really lay down. If I am a fucking agent of the monarchy, as I've already been accused of being an agent of the US State Department by other people, so this is fucking not a new grounds of issue. I wouldn't be living off fucking prison porridge right now, which is, you're eating porridge, but you're using water, not milk. Fucking prison porridge, it's like glop. I won't be living off that right now because I'd have a lot of decent money and I'd have a lot of decent food. It's just crazy shit. And I'm not British. British is an identity, not a nation. And it's a colonial identity tied to Lowlander Scottish and Southern English supremacy in the UK. Now that does affect people all across the UK. Not saying it doesn't. You could find Cymric people who are fucking unionists. Heck, we can find Irish people that are unionists. Doesn't devalue any of the contradictions of the situation here. And as someone whom is anti-British, I do not subscribe to its colonial identity. I am of Anglo-Celtic descent, and therefore have a tie-in with my own Anglo culture, but also I am trying to rebuild and rekindle a connection to my Celtic heritage through Pan-Celtism. I'm not British. There's no British people. It's a colonial identity, nothing more, nothing less. Emo, metalcore, new metal, pop punk, screamo is middle class music. Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't fucking say it any better, Lumpen Celt. It's madness, some of the shit that this guy's pushing. Like, one second, I gotta have some tea. Gotta rejuvenate the Englishness. Big swig. Mega pint of tea. And be liberal hates pan-Europeanism but wants pan-Americanism. Oh, don't worry, that's on the list. I have not forgotten about that support for white settler colonialism. Oh, ho, ho. Yeah, I still got a commitment. I'm giving no full time to this dickhead, so that's why I'm not going through the video properly. I've just got a list of things, and I'm just saying what I think about it, because any more effort than that is more effort than this dick shit's worth. Heck, I put too much effort into fucking my videos on Caleb. I shouldn't fucking... because the guy, and even as B Liberal said, has some fucking motion in the real world. He is a real issue. Also, a bit of a weird way of comparing a online news org to Moppin's think tank as like two things and one's failing, when our whole point is to be an online news org that ups the voices of the voiceless. That comparison he does in the video is kind of cringe. It's like kind of missing the point of the situation, and MRN's expansion is quite recent, and until I came in, their line was kind of shit on a lot of issues, Dengism being one of them. You can thank me for the harder line on Dengists, be liberal. I'm sure you will enjoy fucking taking that out of context and gaslighting me as some evil British Maoist. No, you. Be Liberal is a Screamo fan, no surprise there. Of course he's into the middle class music. He's middle class. If I'm COINTELPRO, why am I working at a Rite Aid feeling like I got a ride up my ass? Yeah, Gengaros is laying it straight in the I can't English today in the chat. I'm older than you, be liberal. What the fuck you calling kid? Oh, isn't this geezer like 21? Like 22? Like, I swear he's like a year or two younger than me, and he's trying to act like he's some fucking like grandiose old man. Fucking Luke is only 4 or 5 years younger than me. I think he's 5 years younger than me. Falcone's 8 or 9 years behind me. But this is the thing with the whole kid thing. MRN Youth is an important process of how we're doing this shit. So, and MRN Youth is ran by the youth. It's by the youth for the youth. We don't run it. I have a job as a line holder to ensure that we're cohesive, but it's not my job to deal with what they want to put out there, what they want to do, and how they want to organize themselves. Most of MRN Youth at the moment are people in the third world that give information out to content creators on MRN. We don't have a full cohesive team of MRN youths creating content. That will change over time. But it is supposed to be a way of allowing autonomy for youths who want to create content regarding politics to be able to produce them there, and also have the safety nets of other comrades helping them, protect them from the abuse of reactionaries and of the groomer community that exists on here, as we experienced with the grooming behaviors Connor Gillis did to Comrade Falcone. Lumpen-Celt says, I'm poor as fuck on SSI, living in my comrade's basement till late July, then going back to homeless shelter. So funny if B Liberal is accusing me of being COINTELPRO. Mate, you're obviously living it large on them big COINTELPRO bucks. It's like fucking Lumpen-Celt. You ever heard the old myth of the homeless guy who's filthy rich? Don't trust him, he's not really homeless. It's like, there might be a guy who's a snitch, and sometimes they ain't actually homeless. That might happen. Normally, snitches are homeless people who are lumpen aristocratized by their connection to the police. They take a deal. And they go with it. But other than that, like 99% of people you see who are homeless are homeless. And they're not some secret conspiracy guys to come and get you out. And you know, the people who are pretend homeless, they're not normally the people who are making big bucks off it. People are making loads of money. No. They're feds. Or homeless people have chosen to work with feds. And at the end of the day, what are they against? Their process is to attack other homeless people and other lumpen proletarians. They're not out to get fucking people in normal society. They can get them with the fucking boys in blue. Nah, mate. This is all about getting the people at the bottom. But it's not as common as a lot of aristocrats like to make you think. A lot of aristocrats like to make you think that the real homeless are the ones you don't see. The ones you see are all fucking liars. Why are they all on their ass doing like fucking classist bullshit as per usual? And it's old. Get a new thing. The pussy too afraid to call for a revolution in a room full of communists is accusing others of COINTELPRO. Yeah, absolutely. I just noticed I've been like redlining the whole video. I hope I haven't been deafening you all. Yeah, this guy, full of shit. Like, motherfucker is accusing other people of COINTELPRO when he's afraid to call for revolution in a room full of communists. What does that fucking tell you? When I was living in a hostel, back when I went homeless, the first time I went homeless, I got into a hostel. I was living in a hostel. And they were well aware I was a communist. I used to argue with the CEO and other people like that. And I didn't get too much trouble because I stayed out of trouble a lot. And if I was getting caught, it was shit like smoking weed in my room or something like that. Towards the end, I got a position as board member of this hostel. They didn't have that at first, but I basically went and asked the CEO about like getting someone whom could represent the people here to get like walls painted certain colors so we don't all have the one same magnolia color in the building. Get great activities and other stuff like that rolling that help the residents have a greater sense of cohesion, that brings new ideas, and I can criticize old ideas of how in which we are engaged with by the corporation. Mind you, the CEO knows I'm a communist. So they turn around and say, okay, we'll do it by election, rather than just giving me the position, which I ain't opposed to. I like elections. Democracy is helpful. I get elected by absolutely everyone. Not a single person voted otherwise. I get into the boardroom. Now, the CEO is under the precedent that I'm asking for walls to be painted and stuff that's of that kind of, low-end trouble. I'm not causing too much trouble doing that. I come in and I turn around and I'm like, yeah, well, one thing I would like is a list of every policy that this cornerstone place fucking has for what policies does this place have for residents, and how can I, and so I can put ideas towards it, because I didn't have any power. I had no power. I couldn't change shit. I just wanted a printout of all of them, so the next time, because it was every quarter that they did board meetings, so I only got to go in one because I got kicked out before then. But I did get the printout of all the policies. Like, they did send it my way. So that was what I asked for, and eventually I got it out. And ever since that point, the CEO got really hell bent on getting rid of me. Every time I got caught doing anything that was slightly out of place, I was always threatened with, we're gonna have to put you on like a timer where if you fuck up now, you're out. You'll get kicked out. And then I came back from my mum's after I'd like been like accused, like I was being accused of being a fucking tramp and all that because I was wearing trousers with paint on it. Like the trousers were fucking clean. I was fucking clean. And I was withdrawing off MDMA at the time, ecstasy, after going on an 8-day binge of the shit. It's a pretty dark place. Talking 6 years ago now. Actually, I think it's a little longer than that, or a little short. I don't know. I'm not very good with times, but it was around like 2018, 2017. I think it's 2017, but it might be 2018. No, yeah, it was 2017. Cause I think 2018 was when I was in the shared house and when I moved to where I am now. What's it? Oh yeah, it was mid to late 2017 into early 2018. And this was in early 2018, and I had ended up like losing my shit and telling my mom to go fuck herself. I got threats off my dad, and I told him to fuck off if he comes near the hostel I'm living at. If I see him on fucking site, I will stab the geezer because I didn't want to deal with the guy, and he backed off. He stopped threatening me with my brother. I went my own way. I didn't hear off him for ages after that. I got kicked out because when I came in to the Cornerstone, I banged on the reception door, and when I got let in, because no one was letting me in for ages otherwise, so I fucking levered the door, because when I first banged it, I must have been shocked or something, because they just looked and weren't moving, and I bashed it again. They opened up, alright, everyone get the fuck out of this office now! I'm not properly shouting, because I don't want to piss my neighbours off, but I fucking lost it. They all scrambled out, and then this one lad who was like 17 or 18, who's someone I was looking after because I know him for like years, and I was looking after him because he's a young lad and he's, you know, not the wisest of people, gets himself used by Lumpen aristocrats for all sorts of horrific shit, so I did what I could to protect the geezer. He comes in and he's like, come down to Canal Bridge now and we'll fucking have a fight. So I pick the geezer up by his scruff and I throw him on his ass. And I got kicked out for it. And they shouldn't have been allowed to kick me out that immediately anyway because of my disabilities. And it was the middle of winter, the last time we actually had any proper snow. And they were doing what they could to get rid of me in that situation because I was representing a threat to the foundation of how they're going about things. Like, I started getting to a point where I was going to be suggesting overhaul level shit in how they do and deal with us, that I was going to push the boundaries of what they consider is righteous for the treatment of me and my brothers and sisters that were living there. But Jason's not leaving MRN. Like, Mandem's gaslighting the situation with Jason. Jason always was going to fucking falter back. He wanted to start something, and he wants to continue it, but he doesn't want to be at the helm anymore. The stress is physically destroying him. He does not want the stress anymore. He will always still be a part of MRN, and hell if I'm letting the fucker not help us and be a part of the struggle anymore. He's a fucking brother for life, and I'm just gonna stick by the geezer. You know, he's stayed true to his principles as an MLM third worldist, even with the attempts of fucking Caleb Marpin to devolve his positions through whiteness. The whiteness influences that he had when he was heavily mingling with people like you, B Liberal. The engagements with fucking people like Trav. Whiteness is their directive, their way of operating and speaking and engaging. Mason Steiner is terrible for it. Whitest motherfucker around. And so when you're enveloped in this whiteness, it's hard to stay true to your principles, and Jason did. Now, he made a lot of mistakes because of being enveloped in this whiteness. I mean, the allowing of Dengists to be in the fucking MRN and being nice to them was fucking perfect example of it. But he stayed true, and he's going to stay true. His principles won't let him leave. But Mandem does not want to be fucking getting crushed by this stress at the moment, you know. And he's not leaving anytime soon. Like, it's something that's going to happen, but fucking we've put the wheels in motion. We have not reached the destination yet. The Engelsist is taking helm because of the similarities in the way in which these two folk look at the world. Regardless of any position it's ever been, Engelsist and Jason have always had a cohesion and a dialectic going on between them. And that's why it's gone that way. Fuck me. If you think that we're turning around and saying, okay, it's going to go towards that geezer, but not also speak to, okay, the process of training the geezer up for this responsibility, is madness. There's a reason why lumpen proletarians hold the line in this news organization. It's a news org. That's its point. It's to reach out and push up the voices of the voiceless. It may, as much to my discretion against the aristocracy, may have leadership that is aristocratic. It's a news org. It's not even tied to a party. It's not grounded down. It's not a revolutionary body, and it is openly admitted it's not a revolutionary body. May have a leadership that is aristocrat, but the line is held by the lumpen. Why? Because we will be the ones who lead. In the communist orgs on the streets, that are actually the activist orgs that are doing the struggle, because I'm not a part of an MRN party org or an MRN activist org. I'm a part of an MRN news network. The separate organizations would come into that if they want to be endorsed or further supported by such endeavors. These orgs, when they rise up, the lumpen proletariat and the proletariat will be the people who have power in these orgs, because they're the only way these orgs will survive. The power of the aristocrats, of the petty bourgeoisie, should be completely zero. Nothing. They are a reactionary class. They have no right dictating anything about the revolution, and if they are true communists, they will be fine with that, because they believe in the consciousness of the proletariat, which does include the lumpen proletariat in that. And if you believe in the consciousness of the proletariat struggle, you would not need to have power in the org as a labor aristocrat or petty bourgeois. Or fucking maybe there's one Engels out there just in case you're bourgeois. It's fucking being funny. But you get me fucking drivel. This is a fucking news network, son. And I ain't fucking taking it over from Jason. I am a line holder. I already have that position. I am going to still be a line holder when Luke takes over the helm. Note the term the helm is not the whole of the plane. Do keep that in mind. I am very consistent at the moment. Oh, my tea's going cold. I'm getting too spicy. I fucking need to rejuvenate. Surprised I haven't heard of me merge. Alrighty. Love Mao's quote about calling himself the great helmsman. Yeah, a helmsman doesn't so much control as he inspires to lead. The helm of a ship. A lot of those people don't have a hand on a single device, yet they help guide things forward because what Mao's getting to is sort of the concept of leaders. Like, leadership is not about being the one that does the things. It's about being an inspiration to the operation of doing things. My criticism of Marxism is it should have done more to put the people as the leaders themselves. Like, I mean, like, the whole people, like, it's a coercive thing. I mean, similarly to, like, how it's all about how everything's built by the worker. Well, that's the thing capitalism can admit to. It's, about the fact that it is led and driven and to the end by the worker. They need to be the process forward. And that's why the helmsman is supposed to be more of a position of direction, like conglomerating the ideas of the struggle and finding a direction forward. Respect, comrade. Great to see you doing your thing. Hope you're doing well, comrade. Yeah, I'm doing okay, comrade. Hope you're doing well, my guy. Dealing with shitheads as per usual. Cause fucking same old reactionary shit, different day. Fucking and so, I mean, it's like commented this way as well. Jason's commitments to Comrade Net, Lumpen-Celt, and myself is due to Jason's MLM third worldist principles of commitment to the oppressed classes. Me and Lumpen-Celt are lumpen proletarians. Comrade Net is a lumpen aristocrat. Jason is heavily committed to our engagement with the struggle. We're about, because of our engagement with that struggle and our conscious connection to socialist, to the struggle for socialism with Comrade Net's demarchism, which is not democratic anarchy. Demarchy, not anarchy. Archy means like rule. Like anarchy is abolishment of rule of the common people. Demarchy is a different thing. It's a massively different thing. It's this random conglomeration of election where people are randomly picked. That's not even modern demarchy. That's old demarchy. But modern demarchy is another thing. But archy means to rule. Like demarchy means democratic rule. Archy, rule. Why do you think it's called patriarchy? You don't think it's the patrianarchists? To be fair, watch me be so convinced and then I turn out to be wrong and he turns out to be right. But as far as I'm aware, it has nothing to do with anarchism, you fucking dipshit. No, commitment to the oppressed classes. And as an MLM with Lumpen-Celt and as an MLM third worldist with myself, our commitment to socialism and the struggle is very paramount and important. And the class consciousness that is found in lumpen proletarians is stronger than that found in the proletariat. So people like Jason and many other comrades over the last century have realized working with the lumpen proletariat is not only just a necessity, it's a very important one regarding the drive of consciousness of the proletarian class struggle. because the conscious element for proletarian class struggle is very indicative on the anti-imperialist struggle, and the structures of imperialism have created such a large aristocracy of labor in the first world. It is the lumpenized proletariat that holds the stronger cadence towards proletarian consciousness than any other sector in first world society. Being earwigged by the aristocrats. Oh, Mandem as well, like... Oh, sorry. I got a comment there. Ignoring the lumpen proletariat is a betrayal of Marxism-Leninism. Absolutely. Heck, fucking a mistake made by the Comintern itself, like the Third International originally was massively supportive of the lumpen proletariat struggle, and then all of a sudden later on it became anti-lumpen in its character, and so it created this contradiction where all these petty bourgeois socialists will go and quote snipe. Okay, but what about Fanon? What about Mao? What about Fred Hampton? What about Huey P. Newton? What about them motherfuckers? What about Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael? What about fucking Eldridge Cleaver? Nah. They don't want to talk about them. They'll call them like, oh, but those guys are failures. The Soviet Union was successful. Like, it's all about finding a way to gaslight a situation. Like, I've had people that push that shit turn around to me and try and deny the first try and deny the possibility of even development of society existing, because already bad start. But then they were denying it in the Soviet Union, and when I proved them wrong, they turned around and said, yeah, well, it was the even development that destroyed the Soviet economy and caused the necessity for Khrushchevitism. What? Khrushchevitism was what actually caused the stagnations in the economy in the 60s. What the fuck you on about? Who's trying to privatize industry? Like, I don't get these people, man. Like, they're all fucking on some fucking smoke and water. Fucking... It's a Bong reference for those that don't get it. But it's when you know that these people are absolutely against the paramount qualities of socialism, like even development of society. You see the patterns of behavior here. They are for the concentrated style of development that you see in capitalist countries. Khrushchevites are a nightmare. Khrushchevites are third-positionists. That's what I'll say on that. So what's it? Puts the Khrushchevism of people like Trav into really, really big question marks with the exclamation marks in the middle of, so every question mark has its own exclamation mark next to it. You know, wag the fuck one with that, Trav. Khrushchev was a pretty bad dude. Mandem tried to sell the Middle East to the US. Something he doesn't even own. How imperialist is that? Mandem's gonna sell something he doesn't own to the United States. Yeah, what a great guy. But we can't denounce him as not socialist, guys. That would be reductive. Ah, fuck off. It's like I was watching Hakim's video and he was like, calling China a capitalist is reductive. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'll read the response I give to him on that. I have a message from that in there. I put, China is imperialist, don't play middle grounds on principles. Principles have no middle ground. Maybe rather than chanting, quote, pick up a book, end quote, why not reread Imperialism by Lenin and Neocolonialism by Kwame Nkrumah? As you seem to be lost, quote, calling China capitalist is reductive, end quote, what the fuck, man, quote, communist China, end quote. The leader is a filthy rich landlord, and his son is an energy baron. China exports mass amounts of capital around the world, utilizing it to construct bourgeois institutions of power in Africa, Asia, and South America. This is disingenuity. There's no way in hell you can't see this bullshit. You are playing campism with empires rather than taking the principled anti-imperialist position, and it's disappointing. Just got home from work, gonna turn in, have a good one. Respect, brother. We need to have a catch up at some point. It's been a while. But stay easy and stay frosty, my G. But I mean, good enough segue to go on about my video on China that he goes on about in there. When I'll get the title up specifically, you know, because I can really speak to this good when I can get the phrase right. I have the autism problem of butchering my own words every time I go to repeat them. I'm just as bad of it with other people's words as well. So the video named The Racist Construct of Fear Around Criticizing China Must Be Dismantled. What does anyone think I'm talking about there? Do you think I'm talking about what offense that has to people in Europe? Because I'm not. I don't give a shit about white people's fucking needy offensiveness. No, when I say it's a racist construct, I'm saying it's a racist construct to the people in China being worked in fucking sweatshops. The people in Xinjiang who are being attacked with war on terror behavior. You know, people are being locked up as supposed terrorists all the fucking time. And there's the re-education where they're trying to destroy Uyghur culture by claiming there is the one Chinese language and the one true Chinese culture and history. When China is of 56 nations. Not one. There is no one unified culture of China. It is several nations of culture. Somewhat Mao very explicitly pointed out. And the oppressive settler colonialism of Han chauvinists all across China. Everyone tries to go, China's not like the West. They don't own colonies. Yes, they do. In their own country. What the fuck is Xinjiang and Tibet? Manchuria, places like that. Where the Han don't fucking come from there. Yeah, a settler in it. Control over its regions. Control its fucking capacity of autonomy. They use brutal tactics to keep the people under boot, like the fucking thing I went on about regarding Xinjiang in China. Because yes, what the US is saying is bullshit. But China is playing its own game. I don't know if people know this, but the terror in Xinjiang started with the US supporting it. The US took terrorists, whether they are or not, is very fucking hard to say because number 7 on the list of things that could have you done for supposed terrorism was having a suspicious weird beard. What? A weird beard? That's enough for grounds of suspicion? That sounds fucking Islamophobic as fuck. And, you know, they were sending them to Guantanamo Bay with support of the United States. You know, there's no fucking in-between little middle ground or happy days here. Like, no. Fucking straight up. Motherfuckers were sending people into Guantanamo Bay to be tortured. And you know what? There's a quote from a guy, sorry, I can't English. I can't remember where he came from, but I think he was an Arab, whom came to the UK, and he was talking about his experiences in Guantanamo Bay. and he um he was he was there when they brought over Uyghur people from China, and they what is it? I think it's like Hala Maria or something like that. Basically, thank God we're here, because they said that the US will just kill us for being Muslim, while in China they will instead destroy our cult. They'll make us rescind our faith and destroy their culture. That doesn't speak well to the humanitarianism of China. He definitely says we are racist for criticizing China, when I specifically state in that video I do not support the anti-Chinese racism. Yeah, absolutely. Quote, yeah, but they never had overseas colonies. Checkmate, Maoists, end quote, Dengoid. And it's like, well, they've got overseas neo-colonies, so checkmate, fucking Dengoid. But this racist construct doesn't just go that far either. It goes even further. The nations that are utilized for resource extraction and cheap labor are also being racistly treated by creating this construct. So if to make excuses for US imperialism commits to the racial and literally, I mean, race is caste, caste is class. Race is not separable from the class struggle. It is a class situation that intersects with the race situation heavily in the colonial situation, where the function of caste as class is the most visible. Like there's no in between these things. There's no there's no gap to breathe between it. Race isn't like caste. Race is caste. Caste isn't like class. Caste is class. And imperialist systems are caste in the way that they function on a global basis. The oppression of Africa, of South America, of Asia for cheap resources and cheap production is imperialism. Exportation of capitalist contradictions and the expansion of markets, primarily through the process of the exportation of finance capital. Imperialism. That's the gist of it. There we go. We had a good lesson. Now, in these structures, if you are to obfuscate and basically, what would be the word? Downplay the contradictions and the nature of Chinese imperialism and the restoration of capitalism in China, that I don't know if you know happened a long time ago. Like, everyone's arguing about it like they turned revisionist last week, but they turned revisionist like last century. That's so last century. But come on, the door was open. You can't attack me for it. And so, like, this line on China creates this brick wall that is oppressive towards third world peoples. Positive. Oi, nah, BRB, I actually made the joke yesterday. It wasn't on stream, I don't think. So, because I was on Jason's stream yesterday, and I think it was after it ended. That I should wear, like, an actual tinfoil hat and see what these people will do. Like, Do it for one of my most serious of streams, but just have a tinfoil hat on and see how they gaslight me on that. But it's building brick walls that goes two ways. So obviously, I'm having problems, and a lot of lumpen proletarian and even righteous people in the aristocracy and even petty bourgeoisie who are trying to criticize imperialism on a whole meet this blockage, this barrier where they get unable to criticize these issues that then, as a general whole, commits to the racist structures by defending those racist structures of the Empire of the East. But that's not the main issue. The main issue is that then these white, self-righteous, third-positionists, I'm being nice by not saying the direct F word, but I'll say it anyway, fascists defending China and its imperialism, doing campism, go around and they verbally, with the most verbal diarrhea, the most oppressive of language, and a hell of a lot of time they use colonial language. It's very similar to the way I've seen, not real anarchists, the online anarchides, the online fuckers, the way that they speak to my third world and second world brothers and sisters, and fourth world. And that is through colonial language, utter disrespect, disregard for any of their positions that are typically tied to experience. You know, like, I know a comrade in fucking Kenya who has had experience working for a Chinese company. And he don't like engaging with a lot of this shit because it becomes tatty-tail squabbly crap. So he avoids a lot of the Western leftist crap. It's not enticing for him. It's isolating. It's disillusioning. You know, he takes massive breaks away from even engaging with the online space because it's just depressing. Like, the third world really don't have time for bullshit that gets pushed around on these online spaces. They got better things to do. But it's also the fact that whenever they try and put out the actual correct line, because they will get bombarded and attacked and treated as supposedly xenophobic for it, which is mental. Criticism of Chinese revisionism from a Maoist perspective is not xenophobic. A xenophobe wouldn't be a Maoist in the first place, because xenophobes hate and fear the Chinese people, of which Mao Zedong was one. That's like me calling everyone who criticizes Obama's policies anti-black. Yeah. It's utterly mental. You know, like, we're criticizing them from a socioeconomic perspective. We have a massive problem with the fact that socialism has been destroyed, that they are imperializing other countries and doing so in the name of communism. And our problem is very much centered around their own mistreatment of their own people. I got all the heart in the world for the working class and the lumpen proletariat and the peasantry of China. Same with other long lost revisionists like Vietnam and other nations like that, where they've completely gone down the sinkhole with the revisionism. Don't mean I don't love the fucking people, you moronic gaslighter. Actually, it drives my passion and love for them more because I have a compassionate connection with these people, not just as a Marxist who wants to see righteous struggle and knows the revolutionary potential of the Chinese working class and lumpen proletariat and peasantry when they unite and they struggle against this bullshit and build the processes forward for socialism. Because we've seen that before. And we've learnt from that. Heck, motherfucker, that's what inspired Maoists in the first place to take on Maoism. China was the most revolutionary country in the world in 1963. You know, it's utter madness. Sorry, I was looking at the comments, but the not only on that basis, but also as someone whom is lumpen proletariat, who tastes the world in which these people drown in, compared to the rest of the first world who don't have to taste that. And I don't even taste it as bad as a lot of my lumpen proletarian brothers and sisters. It still gives me a great connection to these people. As someone whom is disabled and has had to deal with, even in my own life, but also we have the history of disabled people being oppressed by this, the massive amounts of eugenics in the system, the brings me a closer connection to my colonized comrades who have also been a massive victim of eugenics, both in the past and still to this day, as eugenics still holds a massive swath of power in the liberal world. I don't like admitting China has been revisionist capitalist nation going onwards of 1978. Yeah, absolutely. Even before I became a communist, they could see that Dengoids were huffing copium, thinking modern China is socialist. Fucking, what's it? I mean, I have a couple of things that I've still got on my list to go through, but if any of you lot in the chat wanna fucking come on in the group call or something, or if anyone who isn't in the group will have to make like another group or meet in the server, because the you only have 10 people in the group. I got too many people in the group, so it's too large now. What's it? Uh, you can come on, join, and say what you want about the issue. We are uplift the voices of people that want to speak. So anyone want to say anything on the Be Liberal video and want to come on stream to do it, more than happy to bring any of yous on. Um. Yeah. Waiting for my boss to call me. After that, I can join. Alright. I mean, might as well do it in the server since most people who join are also admins on the server. Um, yeah, I've been told that I need to make it function on that basis, and that's because a lot of people ain't doing it. I'm down. I gotta piss on Be Liberal's floor first. Yes, doing the mopping method. Um, okay. Okay. I've made live streaming things in the server. I'll drop the server link in the invite people, copy, no, edit the link. Never. All right, then I dropped the link to the server. We might as well do it in the server chat because it just allows the fluidity of people joining and leaving, and we don't ring people when it starts the call either, so it's flexible. Guten Tag. You only just caught us. It's 11:55. It is still the morning. you got you're on time, JP. Um. Gotta be careful. Stretching like that. Metal plate in my arm. Okay. How do computers? Oh no, comrades. There we go. Live stream. Ha!
Yo,
Willkommen.
damn, bro. This shit is crazy. Like, in terms of like the topic, with like the not being able to criticize and everything, I just find it really ironic and funny because I feel like a lot of these people be the same people to like cry about fucking identity politics or whatever, but they're doing like the worst type of neoliberal, like Hillary Clinton-esque fucking type of identity politics where like any type of criticism towards her is like, oh, you just don't like women. Like, it's that level of stupidity where it's like you can't even criticize Chinese revisionism without apparently being racist. It's pretty ridiculous. And it's the kind of thing that I always noticed from Hakeem that was really shitty about him. That's like my main disagreement with him is his line on China.
Yeah. Doesn't believe it's imperialist. Doesn't believe it's fucking like the idea that they could be fascist is like beyond them, and it's like, what do you think revisionism leads to?
For real. I'm curious what in Hakeem's mind even constitutes revisionism. Because if China isn't it, like I'm really like curious. What does he think revisionism?
Hello.
Yo,
I mean, it's like liberalism can't survive in a socialist system. Like that's sort of why mass privatization efforts can't just roll off the beat. It's why Khrushchev's ideas to privatize the Soviet Union flopped and he got ousted. He crashed the economy multiple times because of it. Well, crashed sectors of the economy, I should speak more specifically. But so they have to have a process where they rebuild capitalism through state infrastructure. Whether they want to reintroduce the bourgeoisie or they want to have a petty bourgeois socialist society, they'll always have to rebuild those organs of power because they need that capitalist system to provide the needs that they want, or the neo-feudal elements. Because neo-feudalism is a combination of feudalism and capitalism for the most part. There are elements where they try and, like, petty bourgeois people try and take parts of socialism and apply it to capitalism and feudalism and make a cohesive whole out of that, but it really rolls from king's rule and other mentalities like that, where it's the petty bourgeoisie should dictate capital. How they do it, they're not really too bothered so long as they have the power.
and that goes into like even what Engels had said in like Anti-Turing, where points out that as long as it's under the control of the modern state, the state of the capitalists, of the bourgeoisie, it doesn't matter even if you implement like things like state control, like because there's still an operation towards the law of value. There's still an operation towards the profit motive. All it basically does is turn the state property to national capitalist.
Yeah, and it's I can't remember who said it, but it's I feel like it was Engels, but it might be Lenin. They sound the same a lot, but it's the position is that, you know, it's easier for a socialist state to turn capitalist than it is for a capitalist state to turn socialist. Actually, it's quite impossible the other way around. You have to smash the capitalist state to go socialist. You don't have to smash the socialist state like in a revolution to go back capitalist. Counter-revolution doesn't need to be as I guess violent in character would be the term to use. It doesn't have to be as struggle driven. They can co-opt the orgs of the state and just rebuild capitalism off the remainders of I think it was Engels, because I think it was on about the negation of the negation, but Mao also expanded on the negation of the negation. But that's sort of the reason why capitalism can rebuild so easy, is because capitalism's not fully negated until communism, it's the kind of the period of socialism that's at the later end. It's not, you don't have to be fully communist to have smashed the majority of this, but you kind of need either the whole of the world or like 2/3 of it at the very least to be socialist, so that imperialism doesn't have a power basis to oppress the socialist nations, because that is still a capacitation of bourgeois institutions. Regardless, it's almost like you could call it like the second revolution of socialism. There has to be a point where socialism is negated to actually reach communism.
And that's the thing that I know I love about Stalin and economic problems of socialism as well, is he points out that a lot of revisionists completely ignore things like political economy under socialism, and they pretend that, you know, everything is just harmonious under socialism, and the only thing they need to care about is the productive forces. And Stalin basically spends the whole book just destroying that argument.
Indeed. It's interesting that like this process has been a massive issue for a long time of the petty bourgeoisie, because Stalin very much as well ascribes this line of thinking to the petty bourgeois of the Russian Empire that turned communist, and sees that it's like, yeah, this is a co-opting method. This is not right. I don't think this is. You know, it basically gaslights the idea that this is innocent. Like there's no like nice game being played here. This is a class motif.
Yeah. That's why I think it's interesting too that basically, you know, there was Lenin, Mao, Stalin, all three of them talked about the intensification of the class struggle under socialism, not it's like harmonious, like all the classes just get along together. But the revisionists would have you think otherwise.
The petty bourgeoisie think the removal of mass capital means that they have now been declassed. They have now been made proletarians. No, I mean, this comes into a massive critique I have of the Soviet Union, was the fact that they were like, okay, these people aren't educated, so the petty bourgeoisie will tell you what to do. We're educated, we'll tell you how it goes. The labor aristocracy, and yeah, there was a lot of worker engagement too, but most of the working class came from the Rus, not from Siberia or from Kazakhstan. Their mentality can very much be driven by whiteness as well. A lot of power needs to be in the hands of the natives to places like Kazakhstan and Siberia to deal with them things. And the Kazakhstan did get a lot of control and rights and power for their own destiny, but it was dominated by this viewpoint of, oh, well, the peasants and the rural communities, they're gonna need long time re-education before they're gonna have stuff. And when the chauvinism supposedly was gonna come to an end, when they were like, okay, we've built education up enough, these people can have direct democracy, which is so chauvinistic. It sounds so fucking scummy to say something like that. When they went to actually do that, which would have sorted out the problem, at least in the long run, they vetoed it. Like they did everything they could to vote it out. There was multiple attempts by Stalin, and I think Beria and Molotov to put this bill through the Soviet Parliament, and it just kept getting the Presidium of the Soviets, and it just kept getting vetoed. It kept getting voted out, and yeah.
Yeah. This is why, like, like another one of my favorite things from Stalin is like foundations of Leninism, especially the whole book, particularly the one on the chapter on the party, where he talks about that the party has to become strong by purging itself of opportunist elements. How like even under socialism, all of the different factions of the previously existing classes will slowly be liquidated into just being just regular workers, but that doesn't stop their petty bourgeois mindset and stuff like that. So you still have to be on the lookout for opportunists. And one of the best quotes from here is where he says, quote, "In one way or another, all these petty bourgeois groups penetrate into the party and introduce into it the spirit of hesitancy and opportunism, the spirit of demoralization and uncertainty. It is they, principally, that constitute the source of factionalism and disintegration, the source of disorganization and disruption of the party from within. To fight imperialism with such quote-unquote allies in one's rear means to put oneself in the position of being caught between two fires from the front and from the rear. Therefore, a ruthless struggle against such elements, their expulsion from the party, is a prerequisite for the struggle against imperialism." Great quote from Stalin there.
Yeah, it really gets into another thing he gets into in Anarchism or Socialism about how consciousness works. It's not a semblance of, okay, the shoe business owner, when he becomes a shoemaker, he's not going to turn around and go, oh, joy, I'm a proletarian now, I'm going to lose all my ambition. No. He's going to work himself to death to become a shoe shop owner again. And his experience may drive him into proletarian consciousness. And eventually should. But his class consciousness is petit bourgeois or bourgeois. And he may still constantly commit to that, even as much as his experiences are trying to change his consciousness, because his entire livelihood has been centered around that consciousness. That's not always the case. People who have been their entire lives petty bourgeois, I've known people like that who are rampant supporters of class suicide, which is where you destroy your own connections to your own class and become committed to the proletariat and the lumpen proletariat, like Lenin did. And Lenin didn't do it properly. He didn't do it all the way, but he certainly committed to it. And he's one of the first writers that I seem to see that speaks to that language of breaking away from the aristocracy of society. Unfortunately, Lenin seemed to be I don't know, because he seemed critical of all the opportunists and stuff like that, but he was too easy. Like the I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because a lot of the party liked a lot of these groups, but there was way too many petty bourgeois opportunists in the Bolshevik party. Like, for someone that's like, because they split happily with the fucking, they stood firm and they got rid of the Menshevik opportunism. They weren't so hard on the sort of, the petty bourgeois supremacism, for example, was criticized by Lenin in books, but what was the action done to deal with those things? It was more so later on with Stalin's purging process. Lenin did do purges, but Stalin was much more thorough with purging, well, up until the late 30s, post-late 30s. He tried to get another purge after the war, but he did unpurge. Well, actually, I don't think he did it. I think Khrushchev did it, because Khrushchev actually was one of the really powerful people in organizing the military during World War II. Nice little fact to know. He was in charge of the defense of Moscow. Not during the war, I mean, like, organizing its defense, like, on the political level, and how it intersects with the military, because the Soviet Union's military is more integrated in how its society operates because of it being a society that is under siege. And they unpurged a lot of people who were purged during the war. A lot of military personnel got purged and put into positions they shouldn't have. And they attempted another purge after the war, but that never happened. But Stalin was really heavy on the purges. Lenin didn't seem as heavy as Stalin on the purges. He still did purges, just not as often.
And like people don't even realize like a lot of the petty bourgeois elements like they did not like Stalin deep down, especially when Stalin tried to like bring in more democracy and stuff to the Soviet Union, and I believe there was a plan that he had been trying to levy out to basically remove the party from the direct administration of the state, try to allow like regular workers to administer the state, and basically have the party be more of a like a teaching tool, you know, like a tool to actually like class consciousness and Marxist stuff. But I mean, yeah, like the party basically at that point just turned like petty bourgeois, which is why like after the death of Stalin, it basically just became social imperialist. Sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of the really depressing thing is that you saw the early developments of this before the end of Stalin's era. Like, I mean, it's a thing I always drive to people. Stalin was not like the big all-high leader. He led the party and he led the military. That was Stalin's position. He didn't lead the government. That was the premier of the presidium of all Soviets of the Soviet Union, and even he didn't entirely rule. You then had separate premiers of the local presidium of Soviets in the different nations.
I think it's interesting too that Stalin had even noticed early on that a lot of the people that were within the Chinese Communist Party, like the leadership, like the more bureaucratic like part of the party, that a lot of them were more so just like nationalists and not really just, like full on communists. And he like warned them about that they had to, if they wanted to cure themselves from the future of bourgeois nationalism, they had to push like actual Marxist-Leninist class politics, which unfortunately the revisionists ended up taking over. So, and they ended up pushing the Han chauvinism that Mao had already warned about anyway. Like Mao had a big problem with like the clear and obvious Han chauvinism that was all over the place.
And I must really alarm to people because people try and obscure chauvinism to not look at it as to what it means. Whenever you see a Marxist Leninist, especially because it's more of that sort of, if we're to look at things in the era of where those things are at their largest, that type of rhetoric was more common. Chauvinism directly means imperialism, colonialism, sorry, but imperialism nonetheless. They're synonymous terms, technically speaking. That's why, imperialism was sort of lashed to their names because the British took it from the Romans and synonymized it with their colonial empire. But the imperialism was the term the Marxists applied to what the foundation of what it is the British Empire had sort of founded upon. But I'm detracting. Chauvinism means colonialism. When you see Marxists using the word chauvinism, Dengists will try and obscure the usage of that term. It's not chauvinism in the sense of like, if I was to be chauvinistic to you on a personal level, it's class. It's talking things on a class dynamic. As I said, race is caste is class, and chauvinism is a caste form of intersocietal oppression.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder earlier in the stream, I even because like a lot of dangoids will just reject that Han chauvinism exists for one thing, or they'll deny that it was ever a problem that Mao actually addressed. There's literally a letter that Mao wrote calls criticize Han chauvinism, where he literally says it here. He says, in some places, the relations between nationalities are far from normal. For communists, this is an intolerable situation. We must go to the root, criticize the Han chauvinist ideas which exist to a serious degree among many party members and cadres, namely the reactionary ideas of the landlord class and the bourgeoisie, or the ideas characteristic of the Kuomintang, which are manifested in the relations between nationalities. Mistakes in this respect must be corrected at once. What has come to light in various places in the last 2 or 3 years shows that Han chauvinism exists almost everywhere. So that basically settles the question on Han chauvinism to the dang whites who deny it exists.
Absolutely owned.
It's kind of funny to me too. Like I heard in terms of be liberal as well. Like he's apparently he said he's gonna make a quote unquote response video to Paul Moran's recent video on campism. I was just wondering, like, what the fuck is he gonna say in there? Like, what kind of illiterate garbage is he gonna say in there to try to deny, like, the actual position on, not supporting imperialist power?
I mean, as he read Lenin, Lenin very strictly said, we are not to support this campism of empires. We don't play the game. We don't fucking roll dice with the imperialists because, but they're an underdog. China is not an underdog. I find that even the people are like it's an underdog imperialists. That's bullshit. Like they're the largest exporter of capital in the world. Not just largest developer of finance capital. The largest exporter of finance capital in the world. They have the joint largest trade market with the EU. The US barely has a hold over its military dominance over the world. The only thing that it has that can really say that it is above everyone else is its bases. Technologically, the Chinese are leaving them behind. The Americans have got their more new stuff already produced and all that, sure. But the Chinese are making groundwork in military development. And yeah, China is paying half of what the US pays in its military budget. But the Chinese military equipment's going to cost them 2 or 3 times less, if not even more than that. I'm contextualization. Even less than that. To pay for military equipment. It's a lot cheaper for the Chinese military to equip itself, so half could actually indicate equal to more military capability of production or capability of military production. I can English, I promise.
You can.
Yeah, no, basically the ultimate own on idiot be liberal if he even attempts to make that video. Here's something from Lenin on his work called Under a False Flag. He says, quote, "It is not the business of present-day democracy either to help the former country to assert its quote-unquote right to 3/4 of Africa or to help the latter country, even if it is developing economically more rapidly than the former, to take over those 3/4. Present-day democracy will remain true to itself only if it joins neither one nor the other imperialist bourgeoisie, only if it says that the two sides are equally bad and if it wishes to defeat the imperialist bourgeoisie in every country. Any other decision will in reality be national liberal and have nothing in common with genuine internationalism."
Yeah, what's it? It's sort of like when you look at the way that these people apply their positions, $2 really throw them down. Under a false flag, and the nature of the split, what is it? Is it within imperialism or within Marxism on imperialism? I can't remember, but the split within Marxists on imperialism, somewhat along the lines of that.
I think it's like imperialism and the split in socialism.
That's it. Imperialism and the split in socialism.
Yeah.
And like Random goes hard in that book. Has like I love the quotes from Engels that's in there. Hey, fucking sandfly, go fuck yourself, you fucking bastard. Sorry, they're pissing me off.
That was the one where Engels talks about the bourgeoisified workers or whatever, right? Or the bourgeois proletariat, bourgeois aristocracy, something like that.
Yeah, the bourgeoisification of the proletariat into the aristocracy. You
Yeah.
notice that steelworkers went from being very revolutionary-minded individuals to being reactionary due to their bourgeoisification within the system, and that's when steelworkers became the highest paying of the working class and was lifted up because they struggled a lot because of their connections to stuff. It was a way of buying people off, because when they weren't buying people off, a lot of steelworkers became communists. Were doing shit like destroying industrial equipment and shit like that to get a spanner in the work of things. So the British government very quickly responded to buy off these individuals, and that's where the criticism of these groups really is lied, is when they were bought off, when they abandoned their struggle. And this is where you get comments from Engels, Stalin, talking about how the British have shown to be one of the best empires when it comes to reacting quickly to the very revolutionary proletariat of the Britain. That was Stalin's words on it. Like, he said that the people in the UK are one of the most revolutionary peoples in West Europe, the working class, he means. But the bourgeoisie are just as conscious and I'm mincing the words, but actuated and capable and ready to squash their struggles and buy them off. And it's basically Stalin having like a fucking predicting the fucking like poignance of how things have been going already. Like, it's advancing on Lenin. It's like, okay, imperialism has really shown that it can buy people off, and it now gets to the point where even the most radical of masses in the UK get so easily bought off. They rise up in really mass amounts of very, very aggressive struggle, and then it dies down again, and it's this hill and valley shit that's going on, and we don't even get that anymore. That's the way that they got things going. Same with America. It used to be massive hills and valleys, and now the hills and valleys have massive partitions between them because they use the pseudo radical culture to make people think they're even engaging with these hills and valleys of struggle. They've basically found ways to turn struggle not struggle. They've made it what would be the word, like dormant but active at the same time. Like, I don't know how to
Passive?
put it.
Like, maybe passive will be a good word.
Passive, yeah. Like, it doesn't halt the system in any way or affect it like the struggles that used to happen in the 20th century, especially in the earlier half. Well, for Britain. I know for America, it's the more so the mid to late half, or more so just all of it. Because, I mean, like, when you look at, like, African struggle in America and Native American struggle in America, sorry, I don't like using that term, native of Turtle Island, their struggles in the US throughout basically the whole of the 20th century has been heavily radical. They were very much for socialism.
Yes. And yeah, but oh yeah, another thing I was gonna say was you mentioned earlier in the stream how the Comintern had like flipped its position. Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy, and it wasn't the crazy thing to me was that it wasn't very long after Lenin died that happened too. It only took 2 Congresses for them to basically 180 their position on that, which is kind of sad, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
It's a
I mean, I
betrayal
guess
of the people.
yeah, like it's crazy to me that, and it's also funny that like people like Be Liberal and Moppin would basically call like the Comintern that was under Lenin, like ultra left or something for having those positions. They would call them like anarchistic terrorists or some shit.
Franz Fanon's positions on the Lumpen came from an observation of fucking Algeria, and yet he tries to say that he's ultra left. the lumpen are fascist and allies to imperialism. Motherfucker, watch Battle of the Algiers. It's written based off Frantz Fanon's work. And that movie very much shows both the bourgeois lumpen and their reaction against the system. Their reaction in conjunction with the system and how they benefit off of the colonial structure of Algeria. And it shows the lumpen proletariat. Now, it does get into some of the struggles that we have that have us a bit bereft. You know, one of the first lumpen you see that's shown is someone who is a bit of a pisshead. And, you know, we have a lot of these hard struggles and hardships that go in there. And, it's the hardest part of watching that, you know, going through the sort of strains and stresses of, like, you know, this is the never-ending nightmare of struggle. The people who are out on the streets, you gotta have something that gets you through the day by day because you feel less than zero. It gets into that. It gets into the contradictions of that, but it shows how these lumpen comrades, these lumpen proletarians, can shape up, and eventually they face off and deal with the lumpen bourgeois element. It is an absolute amazing film, and I suggest any Marxist or any socialist watch the fucking thing before you talk about the lumpen proletariat, and then go read some Panthers, read some Fanon, read some Mao, read Mao's observations of the People's Liberation Army and how it spent most of its time during the 20s and the 30s being filled with lumpen proles of both peasant and proletarian background.
Also, read Lenin stuff on labor, Sarkozy. Read Lenin stuff on guerrilla warfare. Yeah, like Lenin talks about this stuff too. So, but people don't even really like acknowledge it, especially so-called Marxist-Lenin. Just seem to ignore a large bulk of what Lenin said.
Lenin,
Yep.
I mean, the inspiration for People's War comes from Lenin's position on guerrilla warfare. But Maoism takes it, and where the reconnection was successful now. So where People's War takes inspiration from Lenin is like it's both state and revolution, and on guerrilla warfare, on guerrilla warfare is where a lot of the more militant activities and their drive comes from, and I guess a lot of that also comes from some of the positions in state and revolution, but also an advancement on the development of dual power. And I mean, Lenin wasn't really sort of, it's not something that Lenin completely avoided. Like, they fed people in the struggle. Like, they did programs that ensured that people had their fucking bread and had their fucking land and had their fucking shit while the war was happening. Like, they had to provide and ensure people had their shit. Well, so here's the thing. The Panthers and their struggle, armed defense of the black brothers and sisters from the abuse that they're getting from white supremacy, especially from the police and the state institutions. 2, the food programs, both the breakfast clubs, the food delivery services, the soup kitchens, all of it. 3, helping with squatting and homeless people. 4, education programs. This is all a part of the development of dual power, and I find the development of dual power an important part of the international cohesion of what People's War represents. People's War is the continuation of class war on any ground and any basis. That is the international meaning of People's War, and the ground and basis that we can stand on in the First World is the position of struggle against war, and struggle to feed our lumpen proletarian brothers and sisters and bring education to the streets. Do you know what? Like, I always bring this up when I'm having a conversation with one of my homeless brothers and sisters, because when I go into town centre, I'll go and pass a homeless brother or sister a cigarette if they want one and have a chat with them. if I'm not too much of in a rush, and smoke a cigarette together and converse about all sorts. And eventually I'll get onto the topic of sort of talking about, like the dynamic of the situation that's going on, and the world we're in and all that. And I'll point out to them, when we engage in discussion, that if they were in the same if they had the same accessibility and chance of opportunity the labor aristocrats and the petty bourgeoisie get from their class, the intellectual community, so-called intellectual community, let's be real, the academics and all those lot, fucking, if you had the same access to literature and the same capacity to engage in society monetarily, and I'm mincing my words. It's easier to say when you're chatting with someone in the moment, but you had the same accessibility to the literature that these people withhold from people and think that they have control over and mix up and mess up to meet to their ambitions. You had accessibility to that. You'd blow them all out the water. The experience that you have on the streets, the experience you have in struggle, drives a greater attenuation of knowledge of the reality of the system that we live in, and the way in which the world actively and actually works on a more international basis. Not because of your capacity to know individually as to what nation might know, but because you share an experience that most people in the first world don't have, but many people in the second world and most people in the third world have. And this experience brings you to a greater capacity of intellectuality than any aristocrat or petty bourgeois person. And
Yeah.
because that's someone I find quite important. And I've had, the last guy I was speaking to, he was praising me as like a fucking whiz and off the board and all that. And it's like, the geezer's just as smart, if not smarter than me. He's had more years in the struggle than I have. He knows his way about. He's kept himself alive. Knowledge is not, intelligence is not about what you know. It's all about how you can attenuate to what you're learning and how you're applying yourself to the world.
Yeah, there is a difference between knowledge and intelligence.
Absolutely. See, that's the thing that's I think it's crazy to like come from like a not so privileged background and start getting into like Marxism, reading about this stuff, versus like someone who comes from like a more petty bourgeois like fucking background, a lot of padstock types or whatever. Is that a lot of the stuff that I ended up reading, Marxist literature, it was already like pretty much common sense being clarified. Oh yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like, oh yeah, I've noticed that too. That type of, or it's like just like viewing society, analyzing society standpoint of somebody that's already exploited by the system. You have much more experience. You have this type of knowledge already before without even having to read the theory. That's why I find it interesting that a lot of people that are in the lumpen or regular proletariat or like the lower levels of proletariat, where they will they'll see these type of things without ever having cracked open any type of Marxist text at all. They'll still understand these concepts.
I've got a sandfly in my ear. Fuck's sake.
Whereas like these padstock types, like they have no idea what the fuck they're even talking about. like more than half the time, they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. I had one guy a while back, somewhat recent actually, where he didn't understand. He claimed to be like a fucking a master of dialectical materialism, and then he couldn't tell me how apparently modern China is socialist according to like the dialectical method in terms of the transformation of quantity into quality and the negation of the negation. I asked him, where's the negation at for this modern, like, Chinese capitalist state? And where is this? Because he was trying to tell me that socialism is not a mode of production, basically. Where he was trying to say it's just a movement, and
Oh yeah, I
I
had
was
someone try and say that where it's like, no. You see, it's a what was it like a? I can't remember what it was. It's like a social. It's like they don't believe in socialism. It's like China doesn't see socialism as a socioeconomic thing. They see it as a fuck. See, I've told so many people this, and I used to remember it so well, and can't remember it.
it almost like comes off to me as like some type of fascistic reasoning where they don't actually see it with socialism as like a material thing. They just see it as some mythical idea that that we should forever be working towards or whatever, you know?
Hmm.
Like they don't actually have an explanation of what it means to them, what it is.
They idealize socialism.
Yeah, ironically. That's why I think it's funny. Like I've even had some of them say that, like, oh, you need to go read Hegel to fucking understand what Marx is saying.
Hmm.
Oh, I might have busted my eardrum with the stick. I was trying to fucking get the sand fly. I may have just bust my eardrum. Sounds like things are
Jeez,
underwater.
damn, fucking sucks.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that shit's funny. And like they can never tell me what the fuck they think socialism. And this is a person that would like respond to me instantaneously in like under 5 minutes. So and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden I push him on trying to try to explain like how dialectically can he substantiate that China is dead silence.
It's like what's it? These people, the only dialectics they're a master of is Hegelianism. They don't know what dialectical materialism is, even if they wanted to. Like
Yeah,
fucking, you know, I am gonna do a bit of a fucking mopping and be a bit of a fucking high chair little dickhead at the moment now. So what's it? One thing that I can turn around and say is that the position I have as line holder, one of the main driving reasons for that is that I'm the person people go to in MRM for dialectics. Because I'm not the best Marxist. I'm not the most fucking well-read motherfucker. Like, I ain't some fucking encyclopedia of the Marxism. But I really, really understand dialectical materialism. It's what makes me so able to keep driven towards my positions as a Marxist. Because dialectical materialism just speaks to me like a language that I've always fucking known, and I just needed Marxism to help me ensure I solidify it as actual dialectical materialism and not get caught up in the idyllic nature of equation of opposition that is the position of Hegelianism. Unity of
yeah,
opposites is the position. Oh, sorry, unity of contradiction is the position that needs to be
yeah,
upheld. Mao did a really
like
good piece on that.
yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah. You ever notice that whenever you try to push those type of people on that shit, they pull out their idealist like sense. They try to like rationalize their shit with a bunch of incoherent gibberish. I always notice that whenever they start pulling out the incoherent sense, you basically know that they're not going to give you a straight answer on something because they don't have it.
Yeah, they'll walk around the issue, or they'll try and change the topic. Like I was dealing with, like it's like when I sent the screenshots of that lass I was having an argument with on fucking Twitter, and what's it?
Oh yeah.
Documentos.
Fucking what's it? She was like just responding with like ×1 with a no to me. With
What the
like
fuck?
like tweets that didn't have anything to do with what I was saying. Like other than that someone had made like a similar claim but using some article that had nothing to do with what I was saying. I didn't put any article, I just said the truth of the matter of the situation, and they kept saying no and all that, and then they towards the end it's like oh well you know you're talking like a dick and all. It's like, yeah, but when you consistently one word answering me and then getting arsy with me when I turn around and point out the fact that this is, you know, like not a way to actually argue the situation. Like, you're not giving me anything that's actually relevant answers to my positions. You're just grabbing something that you think is slightly relevant because it says something similar. That's not how it works. A does not fucking equal B because you think A equals B. A can only equal B when A goes the process of meaning something that takes it to B. So what is the process of your thinking that makes you say no to what I'm saying rather than just pulling out your ass? And it got into an argument of fucking landlords don't exist in China apparently.
What the fuck?
But private home ownership is going up, and I'm like, you are aware that landlords are the people who sell them that. Landlords are the people who lease land out. If the government is leasing land out as a capitalist government, it is being a landlord.
Yeah.
That goes to the separate district councils that would organize that form of state landlordism. And a lot of the time, they give it out to executive communities that work as in-house corporations, usually housing associations, for example. Which are separate private companies that the council is would attain to themselves as a way of privatizing the social housing industry, which happens in China, happens everywhere. But they were talking about private home ownership. People say that landlords, people who rent any business building or any building that ever exists, landlord. Landlord, and they rightfully said, yeah, that was the landlord class of feudalism that was being destroyed. Yeah, because landlord class is from feudalism. It's the one of the capitalist classes that was a direct feudal class that was brought forward, even though the bourgeoisie came from a different class than the landlord class. Yes, they were different classes once, but the landlords became bourgeois, like a lot of fucking lords of land did. The king of places like England was some of the first capitalists of the in the re-emergence period. Of course, the Roman Empire was capitalist at one point. People forget that. Marx and Lenin both talk about that. We've been through this shit before. Basically, it's like, two time is fucking misery. Let's not do this again when we get rid of capitalism, guys. Like,
Make
Can
the
I
same.
like say something really
Yeah.
quickly? I
Go for
have
it.
here in my virtual computer basically a document from Mario Roberto Santuccio in something named Method and Politic, I think, because it's in Spanish. I'm not the fastest translator. And there is a quote that I wanted to say that um English language, my brain hurts. The amount of skill of proletarian ideology is put into practice. Wait, shit. Sorry, I should have wrote this earlier.
I'll take your
Se
time, it's alright.
observan de forma de solucionar problemas. Basically, it's a quote that says that to see the amount of skill that one has in like proletarian ideology, it is seen in how one solves issues of the class struggle. Y se adquiere and you get it progressively. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, that was the thing. Sorry.
Are you
That
good?
basically the grade of like knowledge that you have in like proletarian ideology is based upon how you solve things in the class struggle overall. So, I found that cool. I don't know if that was the quote that I wanted, but
Yeah, you can indicatively see what people's motives are in the way in which they engage in the class struggle. I mean, look at Caleb Maupin's hatred of the lumpen proletariat. It really shows his Malthusian angle.
yeah.
While
mean,
claiming to hate Malthusianism.
yeah. I mean, I like
You
this
see, we only
document.
hate him because he's ginger.
Like the
Oh, watch
document
that joke
talks
get taken out of
about
context now. That's gonna be a fucking clip. You're welcome.
the the document talks about something Santuccio described as formalism, which is basically a bourgeois method of like education that basically dogmatism. I think will be the shortest way to describe it. As in, like, you see something and you uncritically follow it because someone said so, right? That's what
Yeah.
formalism is, and it's a kind of mentality that this document talks about. And it's why he brings up the whole thing of like what is proletarian, um, good proletarian knowledge or ideology
You see the
put into
lumpen.
practice.
No, you see it's the lumpen proletarian over here in Angloid land conspiring with the lumpen aristocratic Jews in Arizona to take over the world. Dun dun dun. Fucking what's it? What are we gonna be accused of next, Brian? Like fucking hell. I'm getting some alarm bells ringing ding dinging over here.
It is common knowledge that lumpen people own the banks.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. You know, it's interesting because like one thing that people aren't really taking into account when Jason was citing Caleb's talking of the bankers, he didn't just say the bankers. He said cabal of bankers when he was at the Dugan conference. Cabal is an anti-Semitic slur that comes from the term Kabbalah that was used as a way to try and suggest that the Jewish Kabbalah was a grand conspiracy to undermine undermine Christendom.
Hmm. Western values.
Which Christendom is just wherever Europe wants to put it. Like it changes every fucking century.
Yeah, it's also in Israel for some reason.
Oh yeah.
Evil. Ooh. Yeah. But yeah, to any hello Spanish speakers in the audience, hello. If you ever
Hello, social engine.
want to read something dumb or well very cool from Argentina, you should go to prtarg.com.ar, and there you should find you know a lot of stuff. There is a section specific for documents and you know stuff like that, information in PDF. So you should be able to read it for free. And yeah, just that.
Yeah. Oh, social henchman actually brought up a good point too, but the thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing of dialectics. I've actually heard that. That's because I don't remember ever hearing that reading like Marx, Engels, and like the bits of Hegel that I read. Like I'm pretty sure that's like more of a Kantian thing, that um that way of explaining dialectics.
It's like
Which one?
it's not that it's so much that it's wrong. It's just that it it it, it doesn't explain it enough. It's too individual. Like
Yeah.
it's not that simple. That's what I always say. It's like the triad is too simple to explain. Dialectics. Dialectics is like Engels gets it better in Dialectics of Nature. Dialectics is the language of the universe. Like everything speaks the language of dialectics. It's the only way it can exist.
Yeah. The crazy thing is I even if you try to watch like a lecture or something of this, like of like dialectics, Hegelian dialectics or whatever on YouTube, like they'll still explain it in like this thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing. I just find it kind of strange.
Mm.
It doesn't even get into like the whole like um sublation element at all. And I don't remember if it was um anti-Düring section on dialectics or if it was in dialectics of nature, but I remember there was like an example that Engels gave where like I think it was in anti-Düring actually, yeah. Where Engels gave the example of like the more like revisionist and idealist type of people try to claim that if they like step on a bug or something like that, that they've negated that. It was when they were trying to debunk negation of the negation. And Engels pointed out that like you didn't really negate it, you just stopped its growth. In order for you to have negated it, you would have had to sublate it, but you've therefore stopped its ability to sublate, so you actually have not negated it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's people play the game of simplifying things down way too much, and it ends up driving this capacity to massively obscure and ignore contradictions that undermine idealistic positions. And when you commit to a dialectic position that is idealistic, I mean, is functioning on the sequitive opposition situation where it's one direction or the other. It's not a healthy process. That's not the way it operates. There is two sides to an argument, but you cannot just section them off and not look at things from the real perspective of it all. Because look at this with the equative opposition between imperialists. They're all imperialists. Like the real contradiction here is imperialism or anti-imperialism. It's not east or west. It's north or south.
Mm. Yeah.
But I have to take my dog out to the bathroom quick. Take a piss on the Be Liberals floor again.
Yeah, no, yeah, fucking what's it? I'm pretty sure Moppin said that if I was ever in the New York area, he'd happily let me shit on his floor, so it's alright.
What a
Yeah.
shitty thing to say.
Oh yeah, no, the Fort Slime intel that he told us about in that one video where he says he has intel that Caleb Moppin actively shits on his own floor and like in like the middle of it, a big pile. He's telling the truth. Like I've seen the sources, man. Nasty business. Oh, he's gonna threaten to sue me now.
Way across the ocean.
We're very
Go to
strict
an
with
international
defamation
court.
over here. It wouldn't go, but I'm pretty damn certain. The pictures like the one of them it was in the middle of the act, so it's funny because I've seen nothing, but they'll still try so much. He's a little bitch.
Narration he would even be expecting from a Lumpen.
I'm at the point where it's like, how do we funny up the mopping issue, because the mopping watch is getting dry. I mean, Caleb helps because the Satanist thing, that was fucking class A comedy. Like, you need to get a stand up thing going on, Caleb, because you know what, like, people will eventually laugh. I don't know whether it'll be at the jokes or just at your incapacity to deliver them quite well, but at some point they'll laugh.
Caleb's gonna sue you so he can take your cane. That's what he wants. He wants the fucking walking stick.
Oh man,
Well,
he's after my walking stick. No, he wants the fedora. That's what it is.
Yeah, he actually probably would.
I'm here for the hat.
well, you know, we need to like ask him nicely to make more funny content.
First, America. Oh, wait, alright, it's wrong per se. It is just way too simplified and implies two into one and not one into two. Well, I mean, it basically it's too limited in scope. Like, I like to direct people to Einstein's multiple causes, multiple effects. Because Einstein wrote a critique on cause and effect, and he was like, cause and effect is way too simplified to how the universe works. The universe works on the basis of multiple causes, multiple effects. Never one direct cause of something, and there's never one direct outcome of something. It's impossible. Like, absolutely impossible.
Hmm. Yeah.
Think about it. You push someone off the side. You can't say that the direct cause is just you pushing it off the side if it's smashing on the floor. You've got to also look at the fact that, okay, well, it's made out of a material that will break. It's falling at a certain velocity. It's hitting a certain type of material as it's hit the ground. Everything has multiple causes, multiple effects. You know, if you had hit the glass but you didn't hit it hard enough, that changes the dynamic, and the glass does not fall off the side and break, or it falls off of the side onto the chair and not the floor, and so it gets cushioned and doesn't break that way. One way or another, summit doesn't go the way it ain't gonna normally go, and things mix you up the way out. Hello, just came in now. Respect. Good to have you here, comrade. We've been talking a bit about this little shithead called Be Liberal. Um, uh, he's the one that fucking attacked Dark Sinovia on the day his mom died, and fucking tried to dox a Jewish comrade that was on the streets, and was on the streets in Arizona struggling against fascists. The sex trafficking org called Midnight Productions, the one that Jason covered on his channel a while back, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He's done more stuff since then regarding it, but the original videos were in 2019 because of the massacre in May. And so, like, what's it? Sort of throwing the Ickerman down here, and I think a really good thing to really get onto as well. What do y'all think of Pan Americanism? Yeah, no, you're gonna turn around to the natives and go, yeah, no, we're having Pan Americanism. That's how we're gonna solve the contradictions. Oh, that does not sound very appetitious to the Native Americans, natives of Turtle Island. Sorry, not to the natives in the South. Like, they're gonna have their own names for their own places, and white people should not be subjecting them to the name America any longer. The name America is a name of genocide, settler colonialism, and
I was about to say that. Like they didn't choose to be called that.
oh no, they're gonna report me to Lincoln and Browder.
Oh
George
no.
Washington.
Did Lincoln and Browder ever have kids together or something? Is this what's gonna happen? They're gonna make the mega DNA clone of they're gonna dig up Browder's bones, dig up Lincoln's bones or wherever the fuck he is. They're gonna melt them into DNA goo, and they're gonna fucking mix them together and make the fucking Earl Lincoln, fucking Abraham Browder is what they'll probably go for, because they were going for the real Christian angle on it. So Abraham Browder will be the leader of the CPI, because Caleb is looking for the Jesus figure. Because quite interestingly, he said that, like, so when he denied what Jason was going on about and got all angsty and got his Jesus was socialist book, but really think about this. Jason might really be onto something about the whole, like, he's trying to frame himself as the Jesus figure. Motherfucker turned around and was like, CPI's national holiday is gonna be on the death day of Jesus. Not Jesus, sorry, on the death day of Julius Kaiser. He says Caesar, but I'm gonna say Kaiser because I know how it's pronounced. Oh, fuck off. We're in the survey.
Oh, Gangros. Good thing he's gonna join, because I still gotta take my dog out. I'll be back.
Right. Sorry, I'm not saying much. It's
I
quite
lost
early
what I
in the
was
morning.
saying then.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
me too.
Moppin. So Moppin, he is no, you're in the fucking server, you sausage.
Yeah, it's the Lumpen-Maoist thing.
I even added you.
Yeah, you aren't Kummer.
Man, them did not get the memo.
Don't pressure them.
No, I was on about prior because there was a memo prior. He
Okay.
must have had his call happen when I was given it. Ha! Willkommen!
Hello.
So, like,
It's
what's
me.
it? Caleb Maupin, like, Jason's thing about the whole Jesus thing is not too far fetched when he promotes his CPI national holiday as Julius Kaiser, which isn't, sounds like I'm making a non sequitur, but hear me out. And he turns around and then goes into a story about Kaiser trying to make him out to be a populist. Go try and tell that to the fucking the mass amounts of Celtic people that were genocided because of Kaiser. The Celtic people that used to exist in the north of Italy have something to say about the populism of Kaiser and many other peoples to boot. And then he goes and tries to say that Julius Kaiser and Jesus Christ are just alike and they're very similar people, and that they follow the same line of populism and are for the same struggle. Basically, like he equates Jesus Christ, a construction worker. He wasn't a carpenter. That's a mistake. He was a construction worker. That's what the most historical text suggests. Jesus Christ was a construction worker. And to a Roman emperor, the sort of beginning of the Roman Empire as well, because it was the Republic. Don't get minced with words. The Americans called themselves an empire and a republic at the same time. Britain calls themselves a constitutional monarchy. But the what's it? Nothing like being a subject, eh? But the Kaiser was what Kaiser's son, who ended up wasn't it his adopted son? I think.
It was his adopted son, but I think he was his nephew by blood. It's some weird thing in this whole family. Like the first couple emperors were all related to Kaiser, but it was in a weird kind of adopted way.
Related in
Flexibility.
papers.
Oh,
Sorry.
kinda. I mean, they were
Adoption.
related. They were related, but it was like a weird kind of adopted kind of thing.
We're all related.
Well, no, I mean literally related.
Yeah,
in
like
some
blood.
way.
Like if they, probably some. To be fair, knowing that it's emperors, there's probably some weird inbred shit going on as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
keep the
But you
keep the
have to at
family
least
pure.
have some. Yeah, you have to at least trace some ancestry to Kaiser, or at least that kind of clique. But
Yeah.
yeah, what's it?
I'm losing things all the time and it's pissing me off. Where the fuck is it? Ah, there you are, you bastard.
Oh, I'm gonna wash my teeth. Be right back.
Okay. But what's it? The title Kaiser is a title that the Roman emperors adopted later on. And not just the Roman emperors, but, emperors of the Russian Empire, the German Empire. It's really interesting because of the weirdness in English here. So we have things called Kaiser rolls, but whenever whenever we have a Caesar salad, it's always called Caesar, not Kaiser salad. And it's just like the weirdness with the K, I think.
Why being so judgmental of the populism of the leader of the Roman Imperial Republic, Julius Caesar?
You're right. I guess I'm just one of those conservative senator. I must be part of the
You're part of the
conservative
liberal
Senate.
elite. You've been deleted.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
if it
reporting
was
you to
Kaiser-
Caleb Terrence Martin.
Yeah. Well, if
I'm
we're
gonna
talking about,
can I call him
Kaiser-
Terry? I don't care if his middle name isn't Terrence. It's Terrence to me, and he's either gonna be Terry or Terrence. I don't know which one to go for. Terrence, I think, is the better one because it's funny. It's posh.
I've actually had one of these stupid fucking idiots, CPI guys, like call me, like they just accuse me of being a quote unquote anti-populist or whatever the fuck. Like it's not like we're supposed to be populist anyway. Like that's irrelevant to Marxism. Like, but I was explaining to him
Lenin
the math line.
disproved populism as well, though, like long time ago.
Yeah, Lenin despised it like forever ago. Like they have not read any of this stuff because like this guy was basically completely like butchering like what the mass line is. Like he thought the mass line was basically just listen to people what they want and then you push it. Like no, like you have to like see what the fuck like they immediately need, analyze it in a Marxist way, and make it a systemic critique of the system as a whole, and then perpetuate that back to the masses so they take that on themselves. It's about raising the current level of consciousness of the people, like. But apparently, they don't even realize that it's the job of a vanguard party to raise class consciousness among the masses.
No, they're supposed to just spontaneously, get class consciousness. It's gonna be like the zeitgeist. Everybody's just gonna like leave the banks, leave all their capitalist institutions, and just rise up peacefully.
It's the same type of fucking mistake that I noticed a lot of left comms do too in terms of the class consciousness. A lot of people that are not like ML or ML like actual like anti-revisionist or ML oriented, adjacent, like ideologies that everyone else seems to have a lot of trouble like understanding class consciousness and how it relates to the means of production or anything like that. Like even if you expropriate like people like the petty bourgeois or whatever, that doesn't get rid of their class consciousness. Like that's why it's kind of funny that a lot of left will like deny that the dictatorship of the proletariat would have to be upheld to the higher phase of communism, because like even under socialism, the petty bourgeoisie, the big bourgeoisie, like they would still have their mindset, their class consciousness of the class that they literally were just part of. Like even if you like deny them their means of production, like they're still going to hold those views and they're still going to want to restore their previous position.
Right.
It's the same thing with like the Pat sucks that want to push this like populism shit, where it's like you're literally just doing like economists essentially. You're relying on a spontaneous movement that will just uprise against the government itself, even though it's a part of this capitalist system itself already. So it's never really going to go beyond the limits of the capitalist system without you actually, as being a responsible vanguardist, pushing that class consciousness onto the masses and raising their level of consciousness.
I mean,
I mean, do these
what's
do these
a
people
really
not have any
interesting
type
thing
of
as
like
well?
Leninist?
The people who like do the most to like commit to aiding people like me and trying to bring up the words of people in regards to the struggle and regards to the way Marxian theory needs to be looked at and applied to the struggle. I get the most help from my lumpen proletarian comrades, mostly the people who suffer with disabilities and people who are in a colonized situation, and from disenfranchised and disabled people in the labor aristocracy. That's where I get most of my help. I got no petty bourgeois support, of course. It's lumpen aristocrats, lumpen proles, and disillusioned upper proletarians and labor aristocrats. Like Becky V's an example of an upper proletarian whom is respectful and supportive. I mean, not I don't speak to her so much anymore, but they've been someone who's helped out and has pointed out a lot of interesting and very important things. We spoke the other day, and they brought up a very important Gramsci quote that absolutely obliterated the bourgeois idea of how academia should work.
Mm. I'm back.
Gramsci's fucking so based.
on.
He was ahead of his time, truly.
He was wise.
He's ultra left, according to Caleb. I wonder if it's because he's against the labor aristocracy and the petty bourgeoisie and thinks they should have like that. So I've said this a few times before, but that's where my position on the absolute no power to these classes in the revolutionary org comes from. Like, they should be allowed in the org. Like, people think I'm saying they shouldn't be allowed in the org and should be able to commit to the struggle. Committing to the struggle is not the same as having power in the organization. They should be in a rear guard, is the way I see it. For one, they're a foundation of what they know, as much as it's not experience of the world as is and isn't empirical. That knowledge can at least be compared to the reality of it, and we can have the more empirical nature of the lumpen proletariat and the proletariat leading, whilst the rational mentality that exists in the more petty bourgeois and labor aristocratic members, because they'll still be going for proletarianization, and it's quite hard to fully achieve proletarianization until long after socialism has already beaten the capitalist state down in this nation and has started building the proper re-educational processes of the system where it's bringing people into that proletarian mindset. So they're more rationalist, intellectual, petty bourgeois intelligentsic mentality would be useful to compare to the empirical analyses made by the vanguard, which would be the lumpen proletariat and the well, I mean, with the way that imperialism has made things, I even have to be distinct and say it's more so the lower sectors of the proletariat in the first world, Like, it's hard to say what you call the bourgeoisified proletariat, but they certainly betrayed the lower sectors of the proletariat.
Mm.
They look down on people who strike.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
teachers, I sit in that middle ground, don't they? Some of them are labor aristocrats, some of them are petty bourgeois, and some of them are upper workers. Sorry for cutting you off.
it really annoys me that people try to call themselves any type of Leninists at all and deny the role of the like a vanguard. Like even if they believe that like the left proletariat are not revolutionary, we're stupid for thinking that if they do. But even if they do think that, it should be up to them as the actual principled vanguard to raise their level of consciousness. Like if they just throw these people aside, despite them being the most exploited people in the system to begin with, you're not doing your job as a principled vanguardist at all. You're literally just throwing your hat in the ring with like the labor aristocracy. Like you're essentially no different from Second International at this point.
Isn't that comes to the biggest question, what drives consciousness and its material conditions? So it's like, the idea that we wouldn't have the consciousness to engage in this stuff is kind of mind-blowing to me. That people can hold that position in the first world.
So,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, I haven't been able to listen for a bit. But have we already talked about fucking be liberal in this latest video?
Well,
With,
one thing I want to get onto is Pan-Americanism. Like, that shit
Yeah.
is some settler colonial, like, fascistic crap. Like, it sounds like they played way too much Fallout, man. Like, no wonder they hate people and play Fallout, because they know that people will see that there's such similarities to what they want to do. Like, it's like the fucking, when America and Fallout wants to fucking annex Mexico and Canada into its thing. The Pan America. Pan America. Like, no, America is a settler colonial system. It's a settler colonial nation, and the name is associated to rape, pillage, settlerism, and genocide across the supercontinent, all three continents of America, North, Central, and South. To be like, ah ha ha, we're gonna make this new America, this Pan America. No, fuck you. Also, like, what's it? Like, he was going on a thing of like, oh, how could you be against Trav? How could you be against Trav? Always lovely, always lovely. Okay. I tried to be nice when it came to Trav. I tried to, after we bashed him when it came to like the way he was behaving in regards to camera number 3, after Mandem had been gallivanting and appealing to fascists like Haas to get clout, because it's all about that viewership. I know that from a conversation I had when we were talking about well, he was going on about this fucking debate between Haas and fucking I can't remember the geezer's name, fucking Destiny, I think it was. And I was like, what the fuck are we talking about this irrelevant trash? This debate about crap is unnecessary. We should talk about something more serious and worthwhile actually getting into. And he's like, I have a channel to build. You know, it's all about that fucking clout, what's popular, not what's necessary. And I myself and Falcone have dealt with the ableism of Trav, his complete disrespect of people who are more artistic, and the way in which he tries to gaslight them on that basis, and the way in which he will entice and antagonize a situation that is already getting hot through narcissistic behaviors that try and act as someone of complete righteousness in a situation where they've acted like a dickhead. Like, you can't twist reality round to make it fit your fucking purview when you're gonna turn around and try and gaslight these difficulties that come from long years of trauma and abuse, and from things of history. My fibromyalgia, for one, comes from the history of capitalism, working kids in factories, and that's where a lot of my anger comes from, because it's trauma that causes fibromyalgia to come out. It's like PTSD. And because of that trauma, I also have PTSD, but that's where a lot of my fervor for anger comes from. I'm in a lot of agony. I don't have a lot of patience for bullshit. And I get gaslit as being psychologically deranged by fellow traveler. When I've explained many times how that problem conjunctifies with the way that my fight-flight response mode is permanently on because of my disability. And I suffer with autism, which makes me hypersensitive to fight-flight response activity. Like, I'm very fluctuative. So, in a heated situation, it can be very hard for me to deal with it, because I'm either going to back myself and fight in my corner, or I'm going to fly out of the situation. Like, that's sort of the situation. My biggest weakness is when people are nice, because I end up having to apologize and feel like a dickhead, and you know, I go into the mode of feeling quite depressed about the whole engagement. Welcome to the difficulties of dealing with fibromyalgia, a condition that has hundreds of different symptoms. And that's not me using an exaggerative, generalizing expression. Like, the generalizing expression is because it is over 200 different symptoms and issues that come with fibromyalgia. And so, like, it's that ableism, the same as towards Falcone, the Christiavitism, and the fact that Mandem came in trying to be like all middle ground on the principles of third worldism as a way to get in with Jason, and then basically abandoned any want to do any shit like that. They meet up in Ohio and they get all this idea of, well, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, nothing gets off the ground. Complete waste of time. When Mandem wants fucking when Mandem wants to speak with Comrade Number 3, and he could speak directly to Comrade Net himself, and instead goes through Jason, was an insult. He knows Comrade Number 3 is the one. Comrade Net is the one who has the closest connection to Comrade Number 3, and is the one that could get in that conversation. Going around Comrade Net feels scummy and insulting. And it was when you did the other third worldist video where it's like fucking oh yeah, I uphold third worldism, but then everything that you suggested that we should do completely spat in the face of what third worldism means. It's not about getting fucking social democracy built up. It's about proving the point that we build struggle to dismantle imperialism. Because when we built up social democracy last time, what happened? We destroyed anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist intent. We destroyed the struggle to actually fight these things. Look at the First World over the last 30 years. It's been a joke. The positions that we uphold is that healthcare, yeah, of course, healthcare is a human right. It's a global human right. No person in an imperialist country should be pushing it on a national basis. It should push it on an international basis, because we're the ones who oppress the world internationally and deny healthcare internationally. Water is a global human right. Housing is a global human right.
Food.
Labor is a global human right as well, and it's like, so we can't be pushing this, oh, well, I'll uphold third worldism, but I'm going to spit in its face as soon as I speak the next sentence. That's not business. That's just trying to fucking appeal to all sides. When's the next time he's going to appeal to Haz to get the views, or the next other person he's going to appeal to get his fucking viewership going on? It's interesting, he's getting snuggly with you. It was Be Liberal that tried to use Trav as a messenger boy to say that he wanted to befriend Synovia again. Mind you, this is someone who Be Liberal is someone who abused Synovia, treated him like a dickhead. And then when he sniped him and sabotaged him and fucked him over, he did it on the day his mom died. Like, what the motherfuck? scumbag.
I think it's interesting. It's kind of like it is kind of like a weird thing to like try to push for like random social democratic reforms here in the U.S. Sure, you could like build off of it, but at the same time, like the only reason that it's even available for us to do that on a like whatever like our own national scale while ignoring the rest of it world is thanks to the imperialist pillage, which is something that Lenin himself had already pointed out, um, like multiple times. Like here's something that he said from the second Congress of the Comintern. He says, quote, to tell the workers in the handful of rich countries where life is easier thanks to imperialist pillage that they must be afraid of, quote unquote, great impoverishment is counter-revolutionary. It is the reverse of what they should be told. Labor aristocracy that is afraid of sacrifices, afraid of, quote unquote, too great impoverishment during the revolutionary struggle cannot belong to the party. Otherwise, the dictatorship is possible, especially in the West European countries. So, I believe there's an issue here with like it's kind of pushing in the opposite direction of what we should be doing. Instead of trying to like gain more benefits for the labor aristocracy, we gotta actually tell them the opposite, where it's like the only reason we're even able to have the current easier life that we have compared to the third world is entirely due to imperialist pillage.
I mean, America is where it's really, really visible as well, because the labor aristocracy are the ones who get the better job offerings and the petty bourgeoisie even further for when it comes to medical insurance. That's quite part of the job. Like the higher paying wage jobs come with really good medical insurance, while people are in the working class. You're lucky if you get it, and if you do get it, whoo, mama, it's crap.
Yeah, you get a Band-Aid. I think a good way to look at that is basically same way Malcolm X framed a lot of his beginnings of his speeches, where he'll say, I'm not a grifter. I'm If I was, I would tell you exactly what you want to hear. And he would, go on to speak some uncomfortable truths, and I feel like that's what we need to do to tell the working class, like, look,
Lenin said it very much. You've got to say what is not politically beneficial, because you've got to say what is righteous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually like something that he said about like the people that want to deny like that anything bad would happen or whatever. He said something along the lines of like if they want to hear sweet nothings, then go join the socialist revolutionaries. Stay away from us.
Go join the Social Democrats. We don't want you here. Like everyone says that like Lenin was like all about like the like unity sort of stuff, and like you don't do sectarian styles or stuff. Like, no, Lenin was the type of person where it's like, if you're not gonna follow the principles of being a motherfucking Marxist, piss off. Join the Mensheviks or join someone else. Like we don't want you here. Get out of this goddamn party.
Yeah, here I found the quote here. This is what Lenin says. He says, "Our doctrine is less quote unquote sweet than the legends of the socialist revolutionaries, but let those who want to be fed solely on sweets join the socialist revolutionaries. We shall say to such people, good riddance." Pretty clear there.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
The good point to lay out as well. The first one is like the largest labor aristocracy in the world. I mean, like, so it was in the top 40s before in America, before Trump took power, and since Trump took power, now the American labor aristocracy or middle class sector, so that includes the petty bourgeoisie as well. Well, half of them are also upper class. The petty bourgeoisie is complicated. I've made it complicated, but oh well. The middle class in America is now around 55 or 57%. I can't remember specifically with America. I get it confused. Britain is at 67% the last time I checked. I think that was for a 2019 consensus. And my German comrade told me that the German middle class makes up about 80% of society. The German MLM third world is.
Didn't Germany like I don't know if they like unbanned them, but I thought they recently in like recent years banned the Communist Party there from like participating in elections. I don't know if that's true or not. If it's still
Not
relevant.
surprising.
It's a nickname for someone called B-Level. It's the person who does shitwalks on Hinge. Sorry, Ewoks on Hinge. The Ewoks, I like the Ewoks as well, but now he's given them bad name. Like, you give the Ewoks a bad name, man.
Yeah, they work.
They did righteous struggle against the Empire. Well, I see a lot of the CPI folk turning around and calling the Empire fucking
Socialist,
Stalinoidic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to retire the Ewoks image. Like it's like you know putting up a Chewbacca symbol. It's like literally like the um the Wookiees are literally like I forget what they were actually slaves, and I think they helped develop the Death Star through slave labor or something like that. It's like yeah, Ewoks.
Yeah, they were.
Critical support for Ewoks and
I just outright support them. I hope they cooked the Imperials alive.
Yeah.
hey,
I know
Oh god,
the
that's gonna get
Wookiees
taken out of context.
were like very early in the war. The Wookiees were re-invaded once again, once the Empire formed and once Darth Vader was, Darth Vader. And then they were used as like slave labor to make the first Death Star, and then I think also to
Jeez.
make the second one.
Hmm.
So yeah, they were enslaved pretty much most of the eras.
It's it was supposed to be the Wookiees. It was supposed to be Kashyyyk was gonna be the place, and they were gonna have the Wookiees, but then they couldn't do the Wookiees, so they did Endor and did little
Bear people.
panda bear. No, it's more like a mini brown bear or a black bear.
Carpinchos with 2 legs.
Ewoks uncringed. Okay, that's what I know him as. Yeah. Sorry, Ewoks unhinged. Dyslexia just made things funny then.
he's such a piece of shit. Like honestly, he really is. Like the idea that I'm COINTELPRO.
He thought you were English at first.
Really, he kept on saying like British Maoists in the plural. Like I don't know if he was just talking about Stoned and Anglesist or like who the hell else is he talking about? Like
Yeah, to them British is a word to say like,
the international bankers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just I always find it disturbing that the whole fact that he used the cabal slur when he was talking about the bankers, it gets so sort of like left behind by so many people.
Yeah, especially with the things he knows. Like it's not like he just randomly used that word. Didn't he study history and shit like that? That's like a very specific word to use in that context, or in any context, to be honest. But
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
It's very fucked up. And that. Well, I have a question because I was thinking about it. What is did Caleb say his opinion on the natives of the Americas?
So basically, Caleb wants to do the same kind of treaty bullshit. So he acknowledges that the natives were genocide, we're going to just continue the same unfair treaties we imposed on you, but we're just going to enforce.
Mm,
It doesn't
wonder-
matter that they threw them on the worst land possible. Doesn't matter they stole the land. Doesn't matter that a lot of them have diabetes now and are living in like I think in South Dakota it's like 48. The average lifespan is like 48 or something. I think a lot of that may be like, just drinking themselves to death and other such things.
yeah.
But we're going to enforce the treaties this time.
Sorry, I'm just scrolling up. So.
No worries. I mean, that really sucks. I hope to not see a lot of people who like hate on the natives in the party. Like, I'm not gonna say any names, but I consider it very important for the movement to like the movement of like the peoples of colonizers and such to recognize the legitimacy of the the Native Americans, because we did stole their land, we did genocide them, and and for those that are still around, they deserve respect, and they deserve their land back essentially. And
That's
just
why it's
like
it's funny to see them like pussyfoot around that specific concept, because like they'll go as far as like upholding crappy they were given first place. Like, let's be honest, those treaties suck. That they will stop short of where it actually matters. Stalin, everybody else put so much stress on it, where the full right to secession, right to their own state, choose. That's where Caleb stopped short at.
yeah.
We can't balkanize America, as they would say.
Yeah, they
We're
fearmonger about talking about balkanizing America. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, it's like Yankees. I don't like them. Why can't we be like Bolivia for once? Or Paraguay even. Those places are nice. Like, did you know that like I think there was 68% of Bolivian population is like Native American? In Paraguay, I don't know a lot about the situation in Paraguay, but I do know that their second language is a Native American language, which is another very important thing. Language in most of the Latin American region, or well, at least down here in Argentina, I should specify that. Here in Argentina, language, it's specifically Spanish. Other language aren't like recognized in the education system. So if you are a Native American and you want to get education here, even if it's free, you will have to learn Spanish in order to get access to it. So that things like that are very like, I see them as very fucked up, because like it's a way to like chip away at like one's language, and it's just a shitty situation overall. And I don't blame anyone for like preferring Bolivia over like a shitty place like this, because it's overall I think Bolivia is a better like example of what to do about native people, at least on the current context that we live in.
Yeah,
It's nice what they're doing, but it's not going all the way. Like it's bourgeois struggle. Like the native struggle needs to be where they are getting actual power completely over the land. Like I mean, it's good what Bolivia was doing. I'm not denying that, but it needs to be more. But I mean, it's like it's good. One thing that is really good is the restoring of the learning of native languages. The thing is, though, is what bourgeois nations tend to do with colonized languages is they make them much harder to learn than the colonizer language. So it basically tries to make the language much more useless in society, um, than and hard to learn and hard to process. So a lot of people will denounce learning the language their parents know to learn the language of the colonizer. This isn't always the case, and I don't know whether that is the full case with how the Bolivian education system works. I haven't looked into that myself, but it is a common case with a lot of bourgeois systems. So it's like we've got to be somewhat careful. You're not wrong to say that Bolivia's doing good stuff, but like I know I got native comrades that find that it's like Bolivia is sort of a half measure of what they're doing rather than the full Taj McGrath.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I say that in the current context is all right. There's more to be done, a lot to be done, but it's better than here, that's for sure. When we're in a literal state of war against the natives, pretty much.
We need to get this whole Americanism, like, we need to just get all that fucking crap, throw it in the fucking dumpster. Like, I mean, like when when the slaves rose up in Saint Domingue, they didn't continue calling it Saint Domingue after the revolution. They called it Haiti, which was original name of the island, the unified island of that region. In fact, the guy leading the slaves there wanted to name his army the army of the Incas. So what does that tell you about what their intention was here? It was very much an anti-decolonization struggle, to say the least. Keep in mind, I don't think a lot of these slaves were of native descent, but I'm not 100% sure. I think most of them were of African descent, but they were very sympathetic with the plight of the natives as well. Because you got to keep in mind that because when they killed off the natives, one of the reasons why they brought in the Africans as slaves was because the natives died very quickly to diseases and other such things. So it all ties together to colonialism.
Yeah. Colonialism is a truly horrible thing. Like, I remember when I was traveling from one city to another in this province, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but here there is a lot of farmland. And when we were in the car, I remember looking at the distance and seeing all of the farms and stuff. And I just imagine how the place would look like before we were here, and just a thing to think about, how we cut hills, how we like kill forests, make forests, just change the whole environment. It's very like odd. It's like we are terraforming it to like European tastes, and it's very bad in my opinion. Very bad.
Sound like a vandal.
Yeah, sorry, I will no farms. No, sorry, Caleb. I love farms. I love like fucking being a colonizer. I love building. Okay, please.
Yeah, they're trying to build cities. You're trying to tear them down.
Yeah.
Why are you attacking the Frenchies for, man? The crispy fry boys. I mean, so like, what's it? Social Henson says that America is going to be quote localized end quote regardless of what white communists do. We need to organize and serve locally. A quote national end quote struggle in the U.S. is based on the falsity a U.S. nation even exists. Yeah, and it's like this Pan Americanism thing doesn't exist either. It's a bunch of Europeans doing a colonial takeover of Turtle Island and South America, or I don't know what the name is given for the continent by the natives in South America, so I'm not gonna speak in spam, or I'll just use that name there. But America is a European colonial thing, and the Europeans can have pan-Europeanism in Europe. It's amazing how they criticize that pan-Europeanism and how it will deal with the settler colonialism in places like America and South Africa, where we've gone and dominated those regions and oppressed those peoples, and how we can use it to bring a sense of solidarity and bring people back home and end the colonialistic nature of Europe within Europe itself as well. Yet they promote Eurasianism and they promote Pan-Africanism. Sorry, Pan-Africanism? Pan-Americanism. Can't speak properly. Pan-Africanism is based. They promote Pan-Americanism. And this Pan-Americanism is white supremacy. So is white supremacism. It's the only thing it can be. It comes in stark opposition to Pan-Africanism and to the decolonialist, socialist patriotism of the Native Americans. Because here's the thing, you might want to read some of the works the Marxists have taught when they've talked about patriotism, because an oppressed, colonized group, they can have a patriotic struggle. The natives have been doing one. Do you know who can't? Mr. Maupin and Mr. B. Liberal. The labor aristocrats and fucking Blair. The first world empires. The people there can't turn around. The people of the whites, the white caste, cannot turn around and call for socialist patriotism in the first world. Their imperialism oppresses the world globally, and in most cases, if not all, they have fourth world oppression that goes on in their own countries within regards to the colonization of, for example, in America with the colonization of the people of Turtle Island, same with Canada and Mexico, and South America and all those other nations. And but also in the case you can look back in the UK with the Comrec people, the Highlander Scots, the Irish people have been colonized in multiple different facets and fashions.
See, like their issue here is that they never fucking like take into account the fact that there's differing conditions, different things. Like they can't just apply this socialist patriotism thing universally. It doesn't apply to like colonizer fucking settler colonial countries that have already have like well developed capitalism. They're not like nationally oppressed here. They actually have their own nations that they oppress themselves. Like can't really have a patriot, any type of socialist patriotism for sure in this type of concept. And that's why like Lenin even points out that like the very concept of like the fatherland and stuff like that is completely outdated, especially in developed capitalism.
Yeah, it's a very dualistic kind of Hegelian, absolutist kind of stuff that they do. Once again, Hegel seems to always pop up with these people. It's kind of sus to say the least.
it's more of
And
an organic thing in a lot of cases, but other cases maybe not so. In a lot of cases, people might be reading Nietzsche, which is where I think more so that the Hegelian nature comes from is Nietzsche. But a lot of them as well, it's more so just the fact that they're following the leaders of people who've read Nietzsche. Similar to how the Nazis work, a lot of the Nazis have not, especially the lower end of the Nazis, they've probably not read Nietzsche. They've just seen the plays that have happened when the Nazis already took over, sure, but they were already in the struggle before then. But Hitler and all them lot, they talked Nietzschean dialectics and taught them it that way. I mean, there's many ways of learning. It's not all about the books you read. It's all about the content you get, and the content they get is Nietzschean. It's very strong above the weak. Might makes right. Caleb and Haas pushed that very willingly so. That's why Caleb thinks it's right, just that he can just slam the mute on Jason while he's in the middle of speaking, interrupt him, and then mute him for interrupting him when Jason's just continuing to talk because he was already talking. And it's like, oh, well, because he mightily pressed the mouse. Bad man Caleb. He owned him. And it's like, no, he was being a sus little dickhead. And when Jason called him out for going towards the mouse, it's like, slip of the hand. Suck your mom. Slip
like
of the
in
hand.
in terms of the like their like stupid socialist patriotism, basically for them, like in this fucking settler colonial like fucking imperialist nation, it basically is synonymous with bourgeois nationalism. Is they're actually applying a monism, not a dualism. Like there's something from that Lenin points out in A Caricature of Marxism, really great work, and a lot of it's kind of funny to read it because like a lot of the stuff he points out in this work, a lot of the Patsock revisionists like push these lines that Lenin points out, not actually Marxism, but a caricature of it. So here's what Lenin says here. He says, quote, is the actual condition of the workers in the oppressor and in the oppressed nations the same from the standpoint of the national question? No, it is not the same. Economically, the difference is that sections of the working class and the oppressor nations receive the crumbs from the super profits of the bourgeoisie of these nations obtained by extra exploitation of the workers in the oppressed nations. Besides, economic statistics show that here a larger percentage of the workers become straw bosses than in the case in the oppressed nations. A larger percentage rise to the labor aristocracy. That is a fact. To a certain degree, the workers of the oppressor nations are partners of their own bourgeoisie in plundering the workers and the mass of the population of the oppressed nation. And then he says, thus all along the line there are differences in objective reality, i.e. dualism, in the objective world that is independent of the will and consciousness of individuals. So
Lenin was so flamboyant and organic. I feel that like if you lived until the 60s and saw the rise of Maoism, you'd have subscribed to it.
yeah, he probably would have.
He's a pretty edgy guy. I mean, like perfect place for him.
Or even then, like even, or alternatively, he would have just come to the conclusions himself anyway.
He seemed like he was on his way there. Like fucking, he died too young. The battle ignite once again, and Lenin was young again for like 4 more years, and then fucking old age really hit him like a brick. Well, actually, 4 strokes.
Well, yeah, it seems like, that seemed to be the case for pretty much all of them, for the most part. Like Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, they're all pretty much coming to like the same conclusions all around their time. It's one of the reasons why Caleb is so critical of Stalin at the end of his life, claiming, quote, Stalin was too focused on the social question. He needs to focus more on productive forces, or Che Guevara and the socialist man. He's too focused on the social question.
Okay, Dengoy.
Super sus. Yeah, it's super sus of him to say. He must just be mad about like what he was critiquing in his last major work.
Yeah, it's like what does he think? Like what did he want then? Stalin to just sell out and, okay, give me Marshall funds. I guess he could have produced, productive
Productive
forces that
forces?
way.
Huh? I
Yeah.
heard production. We got to do the productive forces, guys. No, it's like, everything about Stalin, Lenin, Engels, Marx that said, yo, the petty bourgeoisie, the labor aristocracy, they ain't good guys, man. They gotta commit to the proletariat. Like, if they want to get to the future of where we're going, they want to commit to the proletariat. So, in the confines of building the next society, they can eventually share the consciousness and be a part of the proletariat and not be a reactionary class. Fuck me, like the peasantry of like a fucking closer sense of solidarity to working class people than fucking petty bourgeois people do.
Yeah.
And
The feudal
it's also
classes, and the
funny
petty
that, like,
bourgeoisie is even older than the peasantry.
yeah, that's something that people don't even realize. See, like, they don't even like point that out, but that's definitely true. And it's kind of funny too. Like in Lenin's work Under a False Flag, he literally points out that like the mere idea of like trying to say that there is a quote unquote progressive element of bourgeoisie, especially in the developed imperialist countries, is cool. And only an opportunist would say that. Yeah. So like there goes your fucking quote unquote people's democracy, or like American fucking
But guys,
American
Canadian
Soviet.
Republic.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Canadian republicanism. That is the most. It's
That's
almost as
what the
bad
US
as
needs.
American republicanism in 1776.
Yeah, what the US needs, it's not like, anything. They only need like Soviets and more cities and less native. That's what the US needs.
Once
But
the productive forces reach over 9,000, we will have achieved communism.
yeah, by 2100 years in the future. But
Well, it's
like,
the whole, we're gonna have an NEP that lasts like 10,000 years or something. Like the idea that, we just need to maintain capitalism forever because people just aren't ready for socialism because reasons.
yeah, we're not good enough. But
Kind of weird too. Oh, go for it. Go for it.
I was thinking like with the whole, Yankee patriotism and shit like that. I don't know what is, at least, I'm a colonist, right? And it's like I don't know what they feel patriot about, Like when I think of like even in the base of like culture, what is the American culture but a bunch of cultures that are from like Europe or from one of the and African regions or the natives, but they're you know being actively
Buys
attacked by
American
Yankees.
culture too. Oh, that's funny. Like,
Well,
yeah,
all
like
three of
really,
you
what are they
actually,
patriotic
like,
about?
fucking, all three of you are colonizers. My family is a mix of colonizer and colonized background because I've got English family, so they were once colonizers a long time ago, and they came over, and they're still trying to colonize and oppress the other parts of the Celtic lands that they have not taken yet. And then I've got then the Celtic heritage, which is the part that was colonized. Um, so like I'm in that weird I'm in a weird mix up of the two. So I'm trying to restore the Cymric, Irish, and Scottish heritage of my family that's been lost because it was only a couple, like, what was it? My great grandfather was a proud Scottish diaspora, and I had a great great grandfather on the other side of my mom's dad's family that was what's it, Irish. And
That sounds
the Liverpudlian side has a shit ton of Cymric heritage too, which is what y'all might wrongly call Wales. It's Cymru.
this sounds like pan-Europeanism, which we clearly do
Pan-Celticism
not.
and Pan-Europeanism are processes I apply to, but Pan-Celticism is something that I wasn't sure whether I would be, a kindling. I felt really careful about the way I engaged with it because of, being also English. It feels like hard ground to tread, but the two Celtic brothers I'm really close to are really, really open people when it comes to inviting with that. And I mean, what's it? Since I've known Gengaros himself has been very much about like, okay, Pan-Celtism because of his Celtic heritage, and he wants to rekindle with that. But you've also got other heritage you want to rekindle with as well. Like you've got a right mixed bag that you with your Pan-Europeanism. So I'll leave that to you to say.
Yep, definitely. I got a whole bunch of um, ancestors and other such things from all over Baltics, Eastern Europe, England, Ireland, Norway, there's others as well, but mostly I identify as Scottish. That's where my last name comes from. That's where I feel my family most identifies as, and generally that's what I want to rekindle with the most.
Scottish.
God.
That's nice. I mean, I myself am from like a Spaniard family, with the only exception being my grandfather, who was from Turkey. But before I could ask him about his culture and such, he died. So I don't know a lot about that because my mother never was curious about it either. So
It was. I mean, Scotland was one of the places that defended Cumbria when Britain was. Britain. Sorry, it was way before Britain when England was trying to take Cumbria, and I mean, eventually the Moorlander Scots helped the English take Cumbria and dominate the Anglo-Saxons in Northumbria that united with these peoples against the English of the south. That's one of the many inspirations for the destruction of Germanic culture as well that they attempted to do. Now, it's nowhere near as extreme as the destruction of Celtic culture, but they still tried to do it as much as they could to the Germanics to try and disenfranchise and make a differentiation between the Northern English and the Southern English. They all spoke French in the aristocracy at one point until like the 14 or 1500s where they started to speak English again. And it was Latin at first, eventually became French. I'm butchering the shit, but it eventually was French that they were speaking at one point. But Latin in the church, Latin in the aristocracy. I can English, I promise.
Yeah,
Latin, I think Latin is still, I think, taught in the church, well up into like the 20th century, because my father knows Latin. But then again, he was raised Catholic in pre-Vatican II era, so you tell me that.
I was about to say, like, I thought they only taught like fucking church Latin or whatever.
No, he knows Latin, and he was raised Catholic here in Philadelphia, so. Then again, it was like the 50s and early 60s, so who knows what they teach nowadays. But what's it? This fucking liberal shithead. Why does he hate pan-Europeanism so much? And what causes his jimmies to get ruffled by that? other than it gets in the way of his Canadian republicanism.
No,
Another
you.
thing too that I noticed from them is that be really call themselves city builders and shit, but apparently they hate cities. They hate they hate all the urban like lumpen proletariat and shit. And they always talk about wanting to form a fucking popular front with like the fucking get crowd or shit. Like they completely ignore in the manifesto when like Marx basically points out that development of cities saved what did he say? Oh, he said they rescued a considerable part of the population, the idiocy of rural life. I mean, I don't even like that term. So idiocy of rural life, because there's plenty of like rural comrades that are class conscious. Great comrades.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some problems with chauvinism in Lenin's works. I mean, like,
Oh, that
he
was
uses.
Marx.
Oh, was that
was
Marx? Oh,
Marx.
Marx. Well,
Yeah.
Marx the same, but Lenin has a problem with like calling people backwards a lot.
Yeah, he said that too. Like I recall a couple of points in reading Lenin where he talked about like the backwards like conservatism of the peasants and stuff. Like
It's like, ooh, choice of words, Lenin.
That's something Caleb latched on to, line and sinker.
Well, come on, guys. If you're gonna take any part from Lenin, you take the parts that were proven wrong. Khrushchevism. Da-da-da-da. Oh, well, actually, Khrushchevism is based off Trotskyism, and Dengism is very much like Trotskyism and Khrushchevism. They're all in the same boat. They're all third-positionist. I will not be fucking pushed back on this position. And to, like, this is where it comes back into, like, the shaming of the criticism of China. It's racist to the Chinese people whom are worked like fucking slaves, and to the people around the world that are oppressed by Chinese imperialism. Yes, US imperialism oppresses people. So does other empires. Fucking hell, welcome to the real world.
yeah, I don't know why it's so common to just view the United States as the sole fucking imperialist power. Like the whole point. Like, did they not understand anything from like Lenin's imperialism? This is the natural tendency of capitalism anywhere. Like, it's going to develop its monopoly stage.
He
Like, if
talks
you don't
about
believe that,
hegemony as well. He talks about hegemonic
Yeah.
powers that dominate the other powers too.
yeah.
Sorry, I cut you up.
Oh no, yeah, no. It was basically what I was gonna say anyway. It's like he talks about these different things, and even during Lenin's time, because like what they always like to say that like there wasn't like opposing imperialist powers, but there were. They literally were, and he mentioned like several different imperialist powers. He even called Russia, Tsarist Russia at the time, imperialist.
Actually, Tsarist Russia was imperialist before the United States was.
Yeah.
Their dawn of imperialism was sometime in like the 1870s or like the 1860s or something like that. France became imperialist in like the 1830s, the 1840s, and then you had like Germany in the 1860s, 1870s.
I think Russia had colonies in America in like 1700s.
Well, yeah, they had Alaska and all that, but it's not
Yeah.
just about colonies. Imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. We're talking like
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
the
and
expansion
I
into
forgot,
finance capital.
I don't remember the name of the work, but I know in the very late 1890s, Lenin made a criticism of Narodnik, who were talking about, skipping over the capitalist phase, and he was basically saying that there's no argument of skipping past capitalism because we're already in it. So, any talk of like moving past it is just nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah, how can
stop
you skip
wasting time
something
on
that has already begun and begun a long time ago?
Yeah.
Because capitalism
Yeah.
in Russia had already been developing for well over 100 years by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of the interesting thing to pull from that is that Lenin already like believed that Tsarist Russia was capitalist, and he also believed that it was capitalist imperialist. But obviously, it didn't match every single so-called category of
Oh
describing
no, the
what
5
imperialism.
points. Ah,
Yeah, It didn't match every single of the 5 points, but they still considered it imperialist.
I
Capitalist
swear there's a
imperialist.
point where Lenin turns around and says that if people follow the 5 points as a way of them guiding themselves to what is an imperialist, they're blinding themselves or something of that sort.
Yeah.
I think it was something he
Yeah,
regretted
let's-
saying because, like, you know, it's the book Imperialism is not centered around the 5 points of imperialism. It's centered around the different actual mechanisms of not just imperialism, but how imperialism constructs itself. I always say one of the most important chapters is chapter 4, export capital. The title's already enticing. It's already saying it as it needs to be, which is that Lenin talking about how Britain developed its imperialism and how it developed finance capital through being a workshop of the world for other empires. Russian Empire in the late 1800s was being a workshop of the world for the British and the French Empire for resources, mainly steel and oil.
Yeah, and it's also in chapter 4 as well, where Lenin. It's a great quote here from Lenin in chapter 4, where he points out. He says, "Quote: Finance capital has created the epoch of monopolies, and monopolies introduce everywhere monopolist principles. The utilization of quote unquote connections for profitable transactions takes the place of competition on the open market. The most usual thing is to stipulate that part of the loan granted shall be spent on purchases in the creditor country, particularly on orders for war materials or for ships, etc. In the course of the last 2 decades, 1890 to 1910, France has very often resorted to this method. The export of capital thus becomes a means of encouraging the export of commodities." And this is absolutely something that, fucking China and Russia do today. Is they'll use the export of capital to encourage the means of encouraging the export of commodities. So for people to turn around and say like, oh, but they primarily export commodities, not capital, is inherently nonsensical because first of all, it's already the finance capital is already there, and the existence of finance capital being exported
Commodity
is
is
something that
tied to capital. It's specifically a generator of capital.
yeah, like they ignore all this different stuff that like Russia's doing too, where like they'll invest money into like a specific country, and that country will basically buy the bulk of their materials from Russia, and they think that there's no monopolistic principles going on here. Like,
No, absolutely. And it's like, I really question what these people think commodities are. Commodity is specifically something made to develop and sell and make capital and make profit. That's why it has to be eliminated. Like, they think commodities are like allowed in the thing of socialism because they do what liberals do. They think commodity means thing that's luxurious, not what it actually means, which is a product of sale. Workers are commodified by the capitalist system. So long as capitalism exists, there is no end of commodity production. And so long as socialism has an economic system of finance, of money, of the economic law of value, that's the way it's put. The economic law of value still exists in the socialist system. It is also to at the victim of it putting its proletariat at the victim of commodification by not eliminating that system. It has to be eliminated. And to be honest as well, most socialist societies, if they were to come to exist, like most countries in the world, if they were to form a socialist system today, they could eliminate finance and the economic law of value by the end of the year.
absolutely.
Especially in the first world, like it's really not that necessary. It's not that hard a thing to knock down. Think about the computer systems we have today and the fact that the third world countries, anyone can say, oh well, they don't have all the computers that we got going. Yeah, but they're the ones who fucking make it. As soon as they revolt, they have all the technology, all the equipment to both mine the fucking things and build the things. As soon as they revolt, they're gonna fucking turn into powerhouses. Especially places like India or Peru and all that, where they have a lot of these resources. The DPRK has been making massive leaps in technological development because of the resources they have access to.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I always find it funny. Like we got these fucking idiot pet socks talking. They always talk about how like we are apparently the ones that need to read imperialism, but like it's clear that they have that never read this shit ever in their entire lives. Like a lot of them have been also using this lazy ass fucking argument that they say like, oh, but Lenin's theory of imperialism is outdated now because there's no longer any colony, which is a ridiculous argument on its face because literally in the book literally in the book Lenin talks about the concept of semi-colonies or what other people call like neo-colonies, like this idea that there's not colonies proper means that there's no longer his theory of imperialism is no longer relevant is completely
They
ridiculous.
need to read Kwame Nkrumah. He does speak the truth. Kwame Nkrumah's book, Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call Puerto Rico. I mean,
You sound really far away.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
real
Can
far
you hear
away.
me now?
A little bit better.
Yeah, I don't know what they call. I don't know what they think Puerto Rico is.
Yeah,
Or,
for real.
or other. Yeah.
To give you a bit of a volume boost, I ain't hear you still.
Yeah, the US itself has like several like colonies proper. Like you don't even have to like go anywhere else to look at it. Literally just look at the US.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, 1 second.
Cool. And then another thing that they do is they push this like ultra imperialism narrative. Gangers, how they will they'll say like, oh, we have a unipolar world or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's the Kautsky thing. Flipped on its head, basically.
Yeah, like it's basically Kautskyism without admitting it's Kautskyism. Like they act like this is like an eternal thing or shit. Like Lenin absolutely rejects that notion, and he even says like any type of quote unquote like treaty among these type of alliances is only temporary. It's necessary that it's only temporary because according to the principles of the capitalist system, because like one of these countries is going to end up getting more power than the other, and they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and it's also unjust as well. It's like I always use the Berlin Conference of like 1880s or whatever, where the Europeans divided up Africa. It's like, yeah, that's not your continent to divide up, motherfuckers. Um, like all these treaties need to get under from top fucking bottom. Like, the only good thing I could say about the French Revolution, some of the things. The one thing I really liked about the French Revolution, well, there was a couple of things, but was when they undid all of the useless all the treaties that previously existed under the Ancien regime. Now, of course, they set up their own treaties, and those are problematic. But that's a good concept I like. It's just starting at zero.
Yeah,
I don't like all this bullshit of like, oh, we just need a peace summit. Russia, China, and US. Let's divide up the world.
yeah, that's crazy. It's like literally like being up like just like falling into the hands of the bourgeoisie, literally siding with.
Uh, I use the term imperial management a lot. I think it's a very good term to describe these people, because that's literally what they will do. Um, I mean, we don't. I mean, I was even talking with Dat Stone Soviet about doing an episode on the situation with Tigray that's being covered up. It's not a topic that's being talked about in the West, but there's an ongoing genocide in Tigray, and a lot of these idiotic cat sucks are shilling for Ethiopia. So it's literally a U.S. client mission, because it also does deals with China or something. It's fucking idiotic. Like like 500,000 people have died in this conflict so far. 250,000 from famine alone. And they're burning the bodies too. So they're literally getting rid of the evidence as well.
Jeez.
But it's being completely ignored though, by the West. And you know the best part, you know the worst part. These are the Tigrayan people are a Semitic people. So when there was like Holocaust Remembrance Day last, this year actually, it wasn't 2000. Yeah, it was 2021. I think. They tried to get people to remember their plight as well. Unfortunately, a lot of the media has just ignored it completely. I mean, they've literally engaged in actual ethnic cleansing in the capital as well.
Yeah, and they're gonna continue to do that shit as long as like keep on holding up this fucking reactionary system, which is going to keep on
Yeah.
happening, especially if we keep on pushing this idiotic narrative of like fucking multipolarity where we port the other imperialist power. Like it's not going to help anything. It really isn't. It's just going to keep on pushing more fucking wars.
Yeah, well,
We have to push
Ethiopia's
like an actual like class conscious proletarian fucking movement. All imperialist powers.
well, Ethiopia is a good example of multipolarity because they do deals with the United States on the war on terror, and they do deals with China for economic development. And the result is 500,000 dead. In a brutal fucking crackdown, and they're burning the bodies. So.
And then we got fucking Kazakhstan, which fucking works with both the United States and Russia as well. And then we got idiots fucking pushing this multipolarity bullshit that call it a color revolution, while the U.S. stays silent on it because they don't even want to get involved.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Ethiopia. Like the United States has just completely ignored it. There was like a very brief period where they mentioned it for like maybe a month or so, and then just radio silence after that.
Is that where Tulsi Gabbard went? Or I don't know where she went. I know she was somewhere in Africa doing fucking probably genocidal bullshit. Like
I don't know. So I did not say.
yeah, she was somewhere in Africa, like around the COVID period, I think. Doing some fucking military shit.
Probably like Mali or something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if she talks about like the protecting the Anglo-Saxon race and stuff like that, she might get monetary support from the CPI.
Well, and then Caleb will deny that he even knows who Tulsi Gabbard is.
Tulsi Gabbard, who the fuck is that?
Honestly, he'd probably defend her like full stop, especially because like Jackson Hinkle does. Jackson Hinkle's some fucking right wing populist, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought he was. I thought he was. Thought he was a true Marxist Leninist.
So listening to a bit of reggae to calm down, you know, keep chill, because Padsocks are stressful, man. There's only so much disingenuity that you can really take with these people. I mean, it's like, you know, I like to give people advice. I like to be helpful. I'm gonna help you out, be liberal, I really am. It's a bit of advice. If you're going to be disingenuous, don't use a nihilistic, snidey, like, tone of voice and attitude that makes you seem disingenuous. It defeats the point of trying to be disingenuous.
For me, this one idiot Patsock that always goes around trying to pretend he's like a fucking expert on. He like gets like disproven to be an idiot. Like, oh, it was like a fuck. I think I even posted a screenshot of it in chat where like he claimed to have read like all of Lenin's collected works, and then somebody trolled him and posted a Lenin quote, and then claimed that it was Sakai and it was about the labor aristocracy, and then he was like, "This is liberal bullshit." That shit was golden.
And switch.
We need to start doing that more often. Just start posting Lenin quotes and then just saying it was Sakai, just to see people's reaction. Or better yet, take some fucking Hitler quotes, say it was like Stalin or Lenin or some shit. I bet you they'll agree with it.
Just start taking Sakai quotes and saying it was Stalin.
Yeah, that's it.
That reminds me of the one meme with Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn that took the Hitler was a special kind of socialist quote and put it underneath that and said it was Bernie or Corbyn. And I always found that one really funny.
Or don't show them the Stalin quote where he calls Russian fucking kulak settlers.
Sakai's motherfucker.
Guys, Stalin believed in the great patriotism of America. That's why he told America to go fuck themselves.
He loved America so much he was planning on nuclear war with them at the end of his life.
Some good music in the background going on.
Biggie cheese.
That's it. So be liberal
I
thinks
got like
that
nothing to snack on, so I'm just literally eating a mixture of paprika, salt, and pepper in my hands because I want something on my tongue to feel a bit of taste. Lumpen proletariat methods to stimulate the mind so that you don't feel so hungry.
For real.
The struggle within, man. Mandem's eating salt out of his hands. No, Nando's peri salt. You ever see it anywhere? Pick it up. Put it on a pack of, you guys don't say, crisps. You say chips. Put on a packet of chips. Makes them sound, it makes it taste real spicy and good. Take a pack of ready salted Lays and turn them into a maze. Their ideology makes literally no sense. They say that we live in a unipolar and ultra-imperialist world, but then say imperialism doesn't benefit the first world labor aristocracy, and then say we achieve socialism through the first world patriotism. It's all absurd. It's doublethink.
Literally, it's like contradict themselves at every fucking turn.
Diametrically contradict themselves as well, like the complete opposite. We live in a unipolar world, yet they're pushing this like weird multipolarism thing that Dugan pushes, where it's literally just an appeal to Russian imperialism and Chinese imperialism as a multipolar force. It's basically literally Dugan describing how imperialism works in different words that suits his needle mouth way of pushing his shit, so that he makes himself seem like his anti-empire. That's why he uses the Soviet Union as a model to describe Russia's imperialist intents as like forming a big Soviet Union style thing. Of course, forgetting that Dugan grew up in the social imperialist era of Soviet Union, so where he's getting his inspirations from. And he was an open Nazi around them times. He used to go around pubs singing Nazi songs, was in the Papia considering they waved the flags of them, I'll openly say they're monarchists. They don't really call themselves that so much. They call themselves nationalist, traditionalist, conservative Russians, but they wave monarchist flags, so take that as you please.
It's crazy too. It's like he was against the Soviet Union while he was social imperialist. So like that just speaks volumes to how much of a piece of shit he is.
It wasn't imperialist enough for him.
But guys, he formed the. He was a founding member of the Communist Party of the Russian Federation.
Oh wow! Controlled opposition party. What? How will we ever respond? Another thing that's pretty funny is like I don't see how they could even defend like Dugan, like especially philosophically, considering like reject. He says like outright that he rejects materialism. So
well, that's when Caleb always comes in and says, "Look, I disagree with Dubin on X, Y, Z. I still promote his book. I still promote him." It's like, so you admit you don't agree with him on much, but you're going to promote him anyway.
yeah, like what does he really agree with him? Try to narrow it down.
Supposedly anti-imperialist, at least Western anti-imperialist. It's like that's a very small part of the movie.
Yeah. Especially when we see these type of people calling other imperialist powers, supporting those other imperialist powers, anti-imperialism.
Yeah, it's about as anti-imperialist as the German Empire with the British fighting each other.
So I think it's funny when we got illiterate little shit stains like Be Liberal claiming that they're gonna make like response videos to Paul Morin's video on campus where he points out the very obvious and rampant fucking problem of idiot fucking Pat socks going around claiming that literal other imperialist powers are somehow anti-imperialist.
Didn't you hear Oz? The Ottomans are socialists. Didn't you know?
Funny too. There's this Hitler quote where he points out that like his socialism is different than Marx or whatever because unlike Marxism, his socialism is patriotic.
Yeah, yeah, he did that, and also talked about how his socialism defends believes in private property, uh, and other such things. And that's kind of like the quote I took, and you can put it underneath Bernie Sanders or Jeremy Corbyn, and it would be like, this fits perfectly.
For
Oh, what's it? I just can't believe the liberal says
I've
that.
been saved. I've been brought a fucking care package to get me through to the end of the week. I've got food now.
Hey,
That's what mums are for.
break out the wine.
I've got some scotch somewhere. Is that good enough? Is that soothing tower and stuff enough for you, Mr. Caleb Terrence Maupin? We ain't no fan of Lincoln around here. Flexibility is certainly one of my fuck English, I don't need to know it. Fuck you. I'm good at the knot.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys, I'm gonna have to log on out because I'm on the verge of passing out right now. You know how work can be, and
yeah.
fuck. I wanted to talk more about be liberal, but I'm just too fucking tired right now.
Tired as fuck too.
This thing's gone on long.
Yeah, work is a killer. But I can see you guys later in a bit.
No, I mean, yeah, no. I mean, a good
Enjoy
thing
the peace.
Oh, sorry,
package.
go on.
I'm just saying, I'm literally on the verge of passing out. But
No, yeah, I caught that.
enjoy the food. Enjoy the food, and
Oh, yeah, I will do.
fuck, be liberal and these pat suck motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah. Respect on that, brother. What's
Yeah,
it?
social henchman. I agree. I saw parts of that video and it was so fucking stupid. Like my favorite quote that the guy fucking said from that dumbass video of his response to Paul Morin is he said like, "It's possible to export capital and not be imperialist." That shows.
That's stupid.
Yeah, for real. The guy has no understanding of imperialism at all. Actually, got to dip out here in a minute too, because fucking stayed up all night, whatever. But I got a work meeting in like 10 minutes. I got to prepare for.
No stress, lad. I think I'll close things up now anyway, because my sink's flooded over again.
Oh shit.
Problem
Alright,
after
peace
problem after problem with this fucking shitter.
out.
No,
Alright,
respect on
peace
that,
out.
brother.
Yep.
And to end this, I guess it is a fun little bit of tad bit to give to you, be liberal. If you're going with disingenuous, don't use a narcissistic tone of voice. You give the game away. You're making it too easy. I like a challenge, man. I like a challenge. You're not presenting one. And I feel I've done enough really to correct the books in regards to dealing with this shithead. Although there's always going to be someone I've missed. Fascinating fact, that's why autism diagnoses are split into two, because it'll always miss summer, and so when you split into two, it allows us to get the bits that we've missed and consolidate more on what's been, you know, what's going on and all that English words that describe what I'm trying to say. I can't do it, but well, I'm on that. You know, love and respect to all my brothers and sisters in the struggle of the oppressed. You know, the lumpen proletariat and proletariat of the world unite. Death to imperialism, death to colonialism, death to capitalism. Let's bring an end to this fucking liberal and fascist dichotomy of continuing the existence of this decrepit system.